Chapter 1478. The golden tree was a good thing. If Tianyan came in alone to suppress it, he should be able to suppress it, but it might be difficult. The conditions here were too good for it. If it was used, it would be equivalent to dealing with the entire revered dragon ancient ruins. The difficulty would not be small. When they wanted to continue forward, the golden tree in Feng Qiuzun's embrace suddenly trembled violently. Then it jumped to the side, rooted to the ground, and started to grow rapidly. When it was almost the height of a person, it started to emit a dazzling golden light. This is a breakthrough? Tianyan discovered that the golden tree had started to frantically absorb the energy around it. The great formation on the ground started to flicker, and were all activated by it. An endless stream of energy was gathered by the great formation, and then gathered here. The entire hall started to shake. It meant that the great formation here was really strong, but it was just a simple energy-gathering great formation. If the golden tree was stationed here, it would really be able to continuously absorb energy to replenish its own consumption. In battle, it would definitely be the strongest guard. This kind of plant-type life form had astonishing life force. As long as it had enough energy, it could recover at an astonishing rate. But now it was breaking through. Tianyan guessed that it might have met Feng Qiuzun and obtained some enlightenment, and broke through to a higher level. Previously, its cultivation was at the middle-level Sky Sovereign level. When it broke through, it would be the late-level Sky Sovereign level. For a demon tree, it was a very astonishing level. Feng Qiuzun had specially rushed over. One of the reasons was probably to take away the golden tree. Yes, it is breaking through. Then we will stay here to protect it. Feng Qiuzun said apologetically. It's fine. You are just worried that other cultivators will come. At that time they might attack it. Tianyan knew what she was thinking. When it was breaking through, it was at its weakest, and it was easy for others to subdue it. Yes, I don't know when those people will come. Just in case, I will stay here to protect it. I came here to take some important things. The rest of the treasures can be given to you. Feng Qiuzun said. As for some special things, some of them are not something I can obtain. It will all depend on our luck. Feng Qiuzun was not invincible. Although she was related to the owner of this place, it did not mean that it could be opened just for her. Therefore, there were still some things that she couldn't take away. Tianyan nodded and didn't insist. He sat down on the side and waited for the golden tree to break through. The golden tree's breakthrough looked rather slow, but it did not require any heavenly tribulation. As long as it absorbed enough energy to replenish its energy, it would be able to successfully break through. Therefore, all that was needed was time and nothing else. Then, the two of them sat down to meditate to protect the golden tree. As time passed, the light emitted by the golden tree became purer and purer. Time passed quickly, and the golden tree behind him grew stronger and stronger. From the looks of it, he would be able to make a breakthrough soon. Almost there. I need a little more time to break through. Feng Qiuzun looked at the golden tree behind him, and could roughly sense it. Yes, I still need a little more time. Tianyan nodded. He could also feel that the golden tree's condition had already entered the final stage. All the leaves on the golden tree began to fall, and then they quickly turned into piles of energy and merged into the ground. They once again turned into rich nutrients to provide him with energy. If he thought that the transformed leaves could be taken away by them, then he was too naive. The demon tree's breakthrough still required more energy. His own leaves were equivalent to energy reserves, and they would fall when he broke through, so that he could absorb them to break through. This is the golden tree? That's great. I didn't think that there would be a golden tree here. It's indeed not bad. It's said that the golden tree's effects are not bad. If we bring it back to our faction and plant it, it will greatly increase the effect of nurturing disciples. Just this golden tree alone is worth all the effort we put in to come here. Tianyan looked up. Apart from Empyrean Tong Wu and Empyrean Wuxia, who else could it be from the entrance? They brought a group of powerhouses in. There were more than a dozen Empyreans, and the lowest cultivation base was a lower-level Empyrean. They immediately surrounded the place. Empyrean Feng Qiu's expression changed. What she was worried about had finally come. These people would definitely plunder everything. They would not let anything go. Yo, looks like it's still breaking through. Take the chance to subdue it. If we wait for it to break through, it will be much more difficult to subdue it. Emperor Wuxia's eyes lit up when he saw the golden tree breaking through. You dare! Emperor Fengqiu stood up and looked at them coldly. Light was released from her body, and it turned into a cyclone that circulated beside her. When Emperor Fengqiu erupted, she did not have the slightest bit of her usual friendliness. She was still filled with killing intent. Why wouldn't we dare? With just the two of you? Emperor Wuxia and the others laughed disdainfully. They felt that Yi Tianyun's side was so laughable. The two of them wanted to protect the golden tree? That's right. Do you think you can overturn the heavens? Perhaps we might be afraid of you outside, but what about here? Who will know about you? If we kill you, no one will know that we did it. Emperor Tongwu's eyes were filled with viciousness. He looked her up and down and sneered. Be sensible and choose to surrender. Sign an oath with me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Emperor Tongwu's aura directly exploded. Killing intent surged over. It was obvious that he wanted to kill Emperor Fengqiu. If he couldn't get it, then he would destroy it. If it was obtained by other forces, it would be a future trouble. Emperor Fengqiu looked at them coldly. It seemed that these people had nothing to fear. They were no longer worried about her influence here. There were no other forces here, so she was naturally not afraid of being found out. You boy. You dare to ruin my plans. Later, watch as I peel off your skin layer by layer. I'll let you know what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Emperor Tongwu looked at him fiercely, his eyes filled with killing intent. The one he wanted to deal with the most now was still Yi Tianyun. He had ruined his plans before. How could he let him go? It seems that I've harmed you. Emperor Fengqiu shook her head and smiled bitterly. Facing so many emperors, even if she could escape, Yi Tianyun could not. Chapter 1479. Yi Tianyun wasn't worried about this at all. He was still relaxed. Looking at the many emperors surrounding them, he smiled in satisfaction. Oh, it seems like you think that it's just the two of us. Yi Tianyun smiled lightly. What, you have helpers? Emperor Tongwu turned his head and looked to the side. He didn't see any cultivators. Did you rush over here? But so what? There are a lot of great arrays here. Our people have spent a lot of effort to break them one by one. Even if you have helpers, it will be a matter of time before you can do it. Emperor Tongwu was right. They all knew that it was extremely difficult along the way. It took a lot of time to crack the arrays one by one. Moreover, they had several divine carver masters to be able to do it so quickly. If it were other cultivators, it would be hard to say. But no matter what, it would take several months to reach here. Therefore, he didn't need to worry about anything. By the time they rushed over, Yi Tianyun and the others would have already been subdued. Of course not. Yi Tianyun waved his hand. Emperor Yuqian and the others came out. Suddenly, there were 4 emperors. The sudden change stunned them. They didn't expect that someone would be willing to put others in their inner world. Emperor Tongwu and the others didn't dare to do so. Even their own subordinates wouldn't be allowed to enter their inner world. Now, a divine lord had placed 4 emperors in his inner world. It was really amazing. Let alone Emperor Tongwu. Even Emperor Fengqiu was shocked. She really didn't think that Yi Tianyun would bring 4 emperors. You are Emperor Li? At this time, an emperor next to him immediately recognized Emperor Li. The vast divine sect had a bit of fame. Some of their emperors were famous. For example, Emperor Li was very powerful. Since he was often outside, it was normal for him to have a bit of fame. Yes, it's me. Emperor Li and the others already knew the details of the situation. They also knew that the golden tree behind them was breaking through. So, you are all disciples of the vast divine sect? The emperor on the side glanced around and roughly saw some things. These people were disciples of the vast divine sect. A disciple of the vastness god sect? Heavenly Venerable Tongwu looked ahead and sneered. I remember now. I heard that the new force is from the vast divine sect? How bold of you to try and seize power from us. I remember now as well. I've always heard that the new faction is impossible to break through. And it seems that the heavens are looking out for them. They've even created a barrier that we can't break through. We've lost so many powerhouses. We have to settle this debt. Nearby, Empyrean Wise Star's eyes turned cold, and his resentment soared. When they thought of this matter, they became angry. Perhaps they didn't go there personally, but when they heard that there was a problem with their own forces, they were definitely furious. Speaking of which, your master seems to have returned to the heavenly cultivation god realm? Celestial Lord Tungwu looked at them and sneered. Your status seems to have risen. You might be a little fearful outside, but who would know if I killed you here? Yes. The vast divine sect should have been eliminated long ago. Let's see if you can still be so arrogant then. Only now did Empyrean Fertile Star and Empyrean Tungwu truly join forces. This made them even angrier. This time, they wanted to silence all of them, exterminate all of them. Each and every one of them billowed with rage, fiery light shooting out from their eyes, wanting to exterminate them. Looks like summoning people out not only did it not make them afraid, it aroused their killing intent even stronger instead. This was actually all within the scope of Tianyun's expectations. But no matter what, they had to be released. Fighting together, they could resist a portion of the powerhouses. There were 5 upper-level Empyreans present, 8 or 9 middle-level Empyreans, and several lower-level Empyreans too. Adding up, the number was not small. On Tianyun's side, including Empyrean Fengqiu, there were only 6. Among them, there were only 3 upper-level Empyrean level. Compared to that side, the disparity was still rather obvious. As for the middle-level Empyrean side, the disparity was even greater. It was simply the level of suffering a crushing defeat. Especially in their view, Tianyun was overlooked even more. How strong was a divine lord? This meant that there were only 4 who could fight. Tianyun was eliminated from the start, so how could he have any lethality? If you want to destroy our vast divine sect, let's see if you have the ability to do so. Tianyun's gaze swept across them, and a star god spear quickly appeared in his hand, preparing for battle. Whether or not I can destroy your vast divine sect is another matter, but to destroy you all, it is more than enough. Empyrean Tongwu looked at him coldly and said, especially you, killing you is as simple as stepping on an ant. Go. Don't talk nonsense with them. If this continues, that golden tree will succeed in breaking through. Empyrean Wuxia had already prepared everything. Under the command, he immediately pounced forward. Nearly 20 Empyreans surrounded them. Their goal was to first destroy Tianyun and the others, then capture Empyrean Fengqiu alive. Go. Empyrean Yuqian and the others rushed forward without hesitation, summoning their strongest Empyrean spiritual treasures to fight the other side. Tianyun did not move, squatting beside the golden tree, seemingly hiding behind it and not counterattacking, but in fact he was protecting the golden tree. Now was the golden tree's weakest moment. If they forcibly collected it, they could basically suppress and collect it. After all, the energy had been used for breaking through, and there was basically no power to counterattack. Capture that kid for me. Don't even think about hiding behind it. Empyrean Tongwu gestured for his subordinates to capture Tianyun. He also wanted to capture him alive. He had to kill Tianyun with his own hands. If he was killed by others, he would not be able to vent his anger. Very quickly, 2 middle-level Empyreans came over, wanting to capture Tianyun alive. In their opinion, sending 2 middle-level Empyreans was enough to capture Tianyun. Originally, they wanted to send 1, but they were afraid that something unexpected would happen, so they directly sent 2. Empyrean Yuqian and the others glanced over, then ignored them. But Empyrean Fengqiu on the side shouted anxiously. They sent people to capture Lord Tianyun. Hurry back and protect him, or keep him in the inner world. Don't worry, junior brother Tianyun will be fine. Empyrean Yuqian and the others smiled faintly, as if they did not care at all. Chapter 1480. Venerable Fengqiu did not trust Tianyun as much as Celestial Lord Yuqian and the others. No matter what, it was her fault that Tianyun caused this situation. When she wanted to turn around to help, Celestial Lord Tongwu quickly intercepted her, waving 2 scythes and slashing towards her. The move was not fatal, but if she was hit, she would definitely be injured. Venerable Feng Qiu could only flick 2 fingers. A wooden zither suddenly appeared in the void, and with a flick, it turned into countless light waves that spread forward. Dong. The two attacked each other once, and then immediately bounced back, no one gaining the upper hand. Want to save someone? Do you think it's possible? Celestial Lord Tong Wu smiled coldly. Capture him, first cripple his arms and legs for me. Let Miss Feng Qiu see what the consequences of rejecting me are. The two celestial lords' gazes turned cold. A long sword quickly appeared in their hands, preparing to cut off Yi Tianyun's arms and legs. Venerable Feng Qiu panicked, hurriedly shouting, "He has nothing to do with me, don't hurt the innocent." "It has nothing to do with you, but it has to do with me," Celestial Lord Tong Wu said angrily. "Previously he even messed up my plans, my key is definitely real, making me lose all face. If I don't kill him, I can't quell my anger." As they spoke, the two middle-level celestial lords had already surrounded them. "Kid, we only want your arms and legs. If you move, you might lose your head." One of the middle-level celestial lords waved his long sword lightly, wanting to cut off Yi Tianyun's arms and legs. Yi Tianyun's expression was indifferent, not affected in the slightest, as if what he was about to cut was not his arms and legs. "That's right, just like this, don't move." When they saw that Yi Tianyun did not move, they were overjoyed. They were really afraid that Yi Tianyun would act recklessly, and if they were not careful, they would really cut him into 2. Venerable Feng Qiu became more and more anxious, wanting to charge through Celestial Lord Tong Wu's defense several times, but to no avail. Celestial Lord Tong Wu was not weak, his cultivation was the same as hers, also at the genius level. Maybe Venerable Feng Qiu was a little stronger, but looking at the current situation, it would be impossible to break through in a short time. "Don't be delusional. Just watch from here." Celestial Venerable Tong Wu laughed loudly, his laughter full of carefree and gloomy coldness. He was finally ready to see Yi Tianyun being severely punished, and he was even able to hear Yi Tianyun's miserable screams. These were all things that made him feel incomparably carefree. Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian, and the others couldn't even be bothered to look over. Instead, they focused on fighting the others. They would be able to defend this place for a while. It was rather difficult to gain the upper hand in a short period of time. There was a huge disparity in their overall strength to begin with, so it was really impossible to kill them instantly. Empyrean Yu Qian could crush a middle-level Empyrean, but with other upper-level Empyreans intercepting her, she had no way of breaking through their defenses. Looks like that's the only way. Venerable Feng Qiu bit her lips. A white light flashed in her eyes, as though she was prepared to fight with her life on the line. Everything had started because of her, so she would be responsible for it. Just as she was about to explode, Yi Tianyun suddenly disappeared. A cold light pierced through a middle-level Empyrean, followed by a multicolored pillar of light that erupted from the middle-level Empyrean's body. He didn't even have time to scream before he turned into a pile of blood mist. A middle-level Empyrean, dead. The other middle-level Empyrean did not even have time to react. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. This cold light similarly pierced through. By the time he summoned an even stronger Empyrean spirit treasure, the stellar divine spear was like a comet, piercing through his body and causing a violent explosion. The second middle-level Empyrean dead. After the two Empyreans died, they quickly turned into piles of experience that surged over, filling up his experience. The feeling of a middle-level Empyrean is different. I have more experience. Yi Tianyun felt very satisfied. Holding the stellar divine spear, he looked over and said indifferently, "Just 2 middle-level Empyreans? This isn't even enough for me to warm up. Can you send a little more?" The pupils of Empyrean Tong Wu and the rest constricted, completely frightened by this scene. 2 middle-level Empyreans were instantly killed just like that? And it was even killed by a divine lord in an instant. Didn't they see wrongly? Empyrean Feng Qiu was similarly dumbfounded. The power that she wanted to erupt rapidly disappeared, unable to erupt. How is this possible? Is this still a divine lord? Empyrean Tong Wu flew into a rage and said, "Kill him for me. This kid must be hiding his strength." To be able to easily kill 2 middle-level Empyreans, he was definitely not a divine lord, but deliberately hiding his strength. which was why he was thought to be a divine lord. In reality, he was just pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger, taking advantage of their carelessness to launch a ruthless sneak attack and annihilate them. Under the command, there were immediately 4 middle-level Empyreans and 1 upper-level Empyrean who rushed over to Yi Tianyun's side, no longer fighting with Empyrean Long Ming's side. This greatly reduced the pressure on Empyrean Long Ming and Empyrean CC. If this continued, they definitely wouldn't be able to hold on. 5 Empyreans surrounded him. How was this just a simple warm-up? They simply wanted to crush him. This is getting a little interesting. Yi Tianyun saw them rushing over. It was about time to raise his cultivation. Facing so many Empyrean powerhouses, if he didn't raise his cultivation, he really wouldn't be able to deal with them. He wasn't a god, even if he had the word god. It didn't mean that he was an omnipotent god. Level up. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to level 8 God Lord. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to level 9 God Lord. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to level 9 God Lord. After winning 3 levels in a row, his experience was immediately sucked dry. He was still a long way from reaching Empyrean level. Breaking through from level 9 God Lord to Empyrean required a lot of experience. It was comparable to all the experience of level 1 God Lord and level 9 God Lord combined. After leveling up, his aura suddenly surged, and his eyes were filled with a blazing fighting spirit. Die Kid! An upper-level Empyrean rushed over, wanting to use the most violent method to smash Yi Tianyun into a meat patty. This time, they weren't careless anymore. Instead, they treated Yi Tianyun as a late-stage middle-level Empyrean, or an upper-level Empyrean. If he didn't have this cultivation, how could he instantly kill a middle-level Empyrean? No matter how careless they were, a sneak attack from a lower cultivation would be extremely slow, enough for an Empyrean to react. Chapter 1481. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly at the upper-level Heavenly Venerate that was the first to rush over. His figure flickered as he entered the void, completely disappearing from the upper-level Heavenly Venerate's line of sight. Void power. The upper-level Empyrean was greatly shocked. He never thought that there would be a human who could use the power of the void. Just as he was about to quickly search for Yi Tianyun's figure, a figure had already appeared behind him, brandishing a long spear as it pierced downwards. Poochie! With a single spear strike, another middle-level Heavenly Venerable was instantly killed. Then he continued to sweep through the crowd. In just a few short spear strikes, 3 middle-level Empyreans were instantly killed. The 4 middle-level Heavenly Venerates that had been sent out had been killed almost instantly. This level of sharpness was much stronger than before. This was the might of increasing one's cultivation. After increasing one's base value and activating Berserk damage mode, the damage would be greatly increased. Especially after the increase in his base value, the power of his bloodline would far exceed his previous level. Awesome! Yi Tianyun felt extremely carefree. Even if he could kill a middle-level Empyrean before, it definitely wouldn't be as easy as it was now. With the breakthrough of the Divine Dragon and Phoenix Meridians, its power was even more terrifying. It could be said that he could sweep through all middle-level Empyreans. Although he didn't dare to say that he could defeat high-level Empyreans, middle-level Empyreans didn't feel any pressure at all. He could kill them as easily as chopping vegetables. The group of people was shocked. Why did it feel like he was even stronger than before? The key thing was that he was still giving off the cultivation of a divine monarch. But this Sir God's cultivation seemed to have increased? That's impossible. Is he really a Sir God? Their eyes were about to pop out. Mid-level Empyreans were like cabbages, easily harvested. Unless it was an upper-level Empyrean, and a very powerful one at that, there was no way to easily harvest it. Of course, if it was a speed-type upper-level Heavenly Venerate, he could also easily kill them. The gap in cultivation was very difficult to make up for. But now what Yi Tianyun displayed was completely different. He was a divine sovereign, yet he could instantly kill a middle-level Heavenly Venerable. However, all of this was thanks to his bloodline, as well as his various abilities. When stacked together, it had a different effect. The power of the void allowed him to come and go without a trace. Coupled with his astonishing speed, especially after entering the void, he could directly teleport. Who could catch him? Unless it was someone with an extremely powerful cultivation or someone with an extremely special ability, it was impossible to catch him. Under this sneak attack, killing this middle-level Empyrean was not a difficult matter at all. Like I said, there's no need to worry about little junior brother. Sword C Heavenly Venerable, and the rest laughed loudly, and continued to slash. Compared to Etianyan, they were having a hard time. Their strength was outstanding, but they could not reach the level that Etianyan had reached. Most importantly, his speed was much slower than Etianyan's. Their eyes could barely keep up. His speed was astonishing, and his attack power was formidable. With the combination of these two, he was absolutely invincible. Of course, this was when facing middle-level Empyreans. It would not be so easy for upper-level Empyreans. It was precisely because of this that Etianyan would prioritize dealing with middle-level Empyreans. As for upper-level Empyreans, he could only slowly deal with them. Empyrean Fengqiu was really shocked from start to finish. No wonder Sword C Heavenly Venerable, and the rest said not to worry. She thought that they were talking nonsense. Looking at it now, they really did not need to worry. It was simply heaven-defying. Not talking about anything else, there was no pressure at all to protect herself. Coming and going without a trace. No wonder he could come here alone. Turns out that he has some ability. But can a divine sovereign be that strong? It was her first time seeing such a powerful divine sovereign. She had never seen one before. It should be said that powerful divine sovereigns, she had actually seen them before. At most, she could deal with them when facing low-level Empyreans. If she went all out, she might even be able to kill them, especially when they were careless and ambushed them. This way, the success rate was the highest. But that was barely being able to kill them. Even if she could crush them, she could only crush low-level early-level Empyrean, or fight with middle-level Empyrean for a while. As for people like Etianyan, who could crush middle-level Empyreans, she really had never seen one before. To be able to do this, he was definitely a super genius, and a peerless kind. This kid. Empyrean Tongwu was about to go crazy. Another 4 Empyreans were instantly killed. It made him so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. 1 Empyrean killed meant 1 less. The price needed to nurture an Empyrean was extremely high. Not to mention middle-level Empyreans. Even low-level Empyreans were extremely expensive. Now that 4 middle-level Empyreans were dead, it was simply too painful. Empyrean Wuxia was also dumbfounded. He thought that he could easily suppress them. Now it seemed that the one who posed the greatest threat was still a divine sovereign. What's going on? This kid is a little strange. Empyrean Wuxia frowned, and the powerhouses next to him became vigilant. Especially those middle-level Empyreans. They even piled together so that they could take care of each other. The attacks against Empyrean CC and the others immediately slowed down, allowing Empyrean CC and the others to catch a breather. However, it was still not ideal. They had long been injured. Facing so many Empyreans, how could they not be injured? They weren't Etianyan. They weren't that powerful. Fortunately, Empyrean Longming was tough enough. Otherwise, Empyrean CCC would have been seriously injured. Etianyan glanced ahead and didn't stop. His figure flashed again and he entered the void. When he entered the void, the group of Empyreans tensed up. Only the upper-level Empyreans were in a slightly better situation. They similarly locked down all the space, especially the surroundings around them. Etianyan definitely entered the void to attack them. He couldn't possibly escape, right? Hence, the upper-level Empyreans were all staring at the vicinity of middle-level Empyreans. They even closed in on Empyrean CC, wanting to force Etianyan out. Just as their nerves were stretched taut to the extreme, a bright light suddenly appeared behind one of the upper-level Empyreans. All of the power instantly pierced out. Regardless of whether it was the bloodline or the 5 elements core, or even the crazy damage mode, all of it erupted. Raising the power to the maximum, the combat strength directly exploded. Boom. This attack fiercely blasted on the upper-level Empyrean. This upper-level Empyrean didn't even react in time. He thought that Yi Tianyan would sneak attack a middle-level Empyrean, just like before. Who knew that Yi Tianyan didn't play by the rules and directly picked an upper-level Empyrean, who was too relaxed against him to attack. The moment he attacked, the effect immediately appeared. Under the fierce attack, this upper-level Empyrean was directly blasted into pieces, nearly dying. Run, run. This upper-level Empyrean's head rapidly fled to the side. How could he still dare to stay here? He was considered lucky. With all kinds of protection for his head, he could escape this calamity. But before he ran far, a spear pierced down again, nailing this head in the void. Chapter 1482. This time, Yi Tianyan did not play cards according to the routine, directly choosing an upper-level Empyrean with the least vigilance, and directly attacking with the strongest power. An upper-level Empyrean was an upper-level Empyrean. Under such circumstances, he could still escape with his head and soul. If not for Yi Tianyan's sharp eyes and quick hands, he would really have successfully escaped. An upper-level Empyrean, not bad. Yi Tianyan felt the experience constantly pouring in, making him feel very satisfied. The experience of an upper-level Empyrean was absolutely rich. And it was the explosive kind. It was just that breaking through to the Empyrean level, the required experience was still quite a bit lacking. The original 5 upper-level Empyreans became 4 now. The most difficult to die, the most precious upper-level Empyreans, was gone just like that, making people's hearts ache terribly. Grooming an upper-level Empyrean was as difficult as grooming 10 middle-level Empyreans. This was just a numerical measure. In reality, it far exceeded the difficulty of grooming 10 middle-level Empyreans. The total resources seemed so much, but whether it could succeed or not was another matter. Hence, the death of an upper-level Empyrean immediately made Empyrean Tongwu's eyes turn red. He did not expect that in order to kill a divine lord, so many Empyreans were sacrificed. Even upper-level Empyreans were sacrificed. Help me hold back these upper-level Empyreans, leave the rest to us. Yi Tianyan tore the void again, his body stepping into the void, preparing to continue the slaughter. This time, he was targeting those middle-level Empyrean powerhouses. There were still 4 upper-level Empyreans left. Empyrean Fengqiu, and the rest resisting a little was still no problem. After all, the difference now was only 1 upper-level Empyrean. The pressure naturally would not be too great. On the contrary, there were still quite a few middle-level Empyreans. As long as all the middle-level Empyreans and lower-level Empyreans were wiped out, it would basically be considered settled. Even if they could not kill Empyrean Huaxing and the rest, at least they would not pose too much of a threat to this side. Surround them, surround them. Empyrean Huaxing and Empyrean Tongwu and the rest all had red eyes, hurriedly sending voice transmissions to their companions, making them surround them and form an Empyrean Grand Formation. In an instant, they surrounded them, forming 2 Empyrean Grand Formations, each Grand Formation different. Their factions were different to begin with, so the joint formation they used would naturally be different. After he used it, his power skyrocketed, reaching the peak in an instant. Previously, they felt that they had the advantage in numbers, so they didn't have to worry about this problem at all. Thus they immediately used such powerful moves. At the same time, this kind of move also had a disadvantage, which was that it was not very flexible. Now that he had no choice but to use it, the powerful formation quickly locked down the area, locking down all the details. As long as Yi Tianyan appeared from any direction, he would immediately be attacked. The combined might of a middle-level Empyrean was astonishing. It was definitely a powerful attack that surpassed that of an upper-level Empyrean. The most important thing was that he could defend everything. At the very least, he wouldn't be as passive as he would be if he acted alone. When he comes out, we'll seal off the space here so that he can't even enter the void. When the time comes, you can launch a fierce attack. The middle-level heavenly venerables of the myriad heavens sacred realm communicated with the sacred peak sacred realm heavenly venerables, and made a detailed plan. One grand formation was mainly for sealing, while the other was mainly for attacking. When the 2 joined forces, they could definitely seal off Yi Tianyan. Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others were left to the side, and no one paid attention to them. Now that everyone was focused on dealing with Yi Tianyan, who would care about them? Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others could finally heave a sigh of relief. After taking a few recovery pills for themselves, they came to the side and watched closely. Everyone is focused on little junior brother. I hope there won't be any problems. Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others shook their heads and smiled bitterly. They couldn't help much when they came out. It was already good enough that they could resist. Wanting to kill a Empyrean of the same level was still a little difficult for them. Especially when surrounded by so many Empyreans, it was already amazing to not be seriously injured, let alone easily kill them. They were already outstanding for being able to maintain it for so long. To be able to kill their way out of the encirclement of thousands of troops and horses, and even make a round and return after killing many powerhouses. This was ultimately the minority among the minority. Every one of them was a top-notch combination. By the time they were ready, they didn't find any trace of Yi Tianyan, as if he had completely evaporated. Strange, where is he? These Empyreans were puzzled. They had prepared for so long, but they still didn't attack. If he doesn't come out, let's kill their companions first and see if he comes out or not. At this time, Empyrean Tungwu and the others shouted, indicating for them to attack Heavenly Venerable Sword C and kill them first. Then they would see if they could force Yi Tianyan out. Immediately after, they locked onto Heavenly Venerate Sword C and Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry. Instantly, one of the arrays sealed the space around Heavenly Venerate Sword C and Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry. Their surroundings were blocked by a transparent wall, and they were immediately sealed in a small region. This was their power. When they joined forces, their power was explosive, far exceeding their individual power. The faces of Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others sank, and they all prepared to resist. There was no fear in their eyes. At most, they would die. There was nothing to worry about. This time I don't believe how long you can hide. Celestial Venerable Tungwu attacked while paying attention to the situation over there. He was simply attacking, and did not have the heart to fight at all. In other words, he was just holding Feng Qiuzun back, and not letting her run away. Despicable. Venerable Feng Qiu said coldly. You dare to call me despicable? I don't know who's the most despicable one. That kid hid his strength, and is even hiding now. He's much more despicable than me. Celestial Venerable Tungwu turned his head, and looked over. Suddenly, a cold light pierced through and went straight for Huanglong. Heavenly Venerable Tungwu was so frightened that his heart stopped beating. He hurriedly waved the scythes in his hands and swung them behind him. Boom! Because it was too sudden, Heavenly Venerate Bronze Marshal was blasted away and smashed into the ground. Rings of light radiated from his body. It was clear that he had an Empyrean spirit treasure on him. He also had other Empyrean-level treasures protecting his body. Otherwise, he would have been severely injured. Now he was only slightly injured. It was not a big deal. Venerable Feng Qiu joined forces with me to kill him. The one who sneak-attacked Heavenly Venerable Tungwu was none other than Yi Tianyan. Yi Tianyan did not go and kill those upper-level Empyreans. Instead, he turned his gaze towards Heavenly Venerable Tungwu. This move was to rescue the besieged. He ignored the powerhouses of the Grand Formation, and directly killed Heavenly Venerable Tungwu. Let's see how he would give the order. He did not believe that the others would not come to save the situation. All right. The xylophone in Venerable Feng Qiu's hands began to play rapidly. Rings of light blades quickly surrounded him. Every move was filled with killing intent. Chapter 1483. Heavenly Venerable Tong Wu was attacked from both sides. Yi Tianyun's every move was deadly, and Venerable Feng Qiu's light blades were also constantly attacking Heavenly Venerable Tong Wu. She did not have the demeanor of a saintess at all. Instead, she had become a goddess of death. Under the double attack, Heavenly Venerable Tong Wu fell into a dangerous situation all of a sudden. If not for his strong defense, he would really have been decapitated. Are you so afraid of death? Your whole body is covered in defensive equipment. What a coward, just like a turtle. Yi Tianyan constantly waved the Star Divine Spear at the side. Each move was deadly, and each move was filled with vast power. Under the fierce smashing of the spear, The halo of light emitted from Heavenly Venerable Tong Wu's body would become a little dimmer. If this were to continue, no matter how sturdy the defense was, it would be destroyed. Especially Venerable Feng Qiu's power, which was also extremely shocking. Countless light blades bombarded over, rubbing against the shield and making a very ear-piercing, creaking sound. Each move could leave a deep mark on it. This time, Heavenly Venerable Feng Qiu was really angry. Previously, because she was worried about Yi Tianyun, she did not perform very well. Now it was different. She was determined to kill Heavenly Venerable Tong Wu, and her power naturally rose greatly. You dare to call me a turtle? Heavenly Venerable Tong Wu almost exploded in anger. He felt that Yi Tianyun was simply too much, but he had no way to fight back. Two powerful attacks were constantly bombarding outside. How could he resist? If he resisted even a little, he would probably lose an arm or a leg. Especially Yi Tianyun's ruthlessness, which was far beyond his imagination. His moves were not limited to this. He did have a lot of defensive equipment, but it did not mean that he was a coward. He just wanted to be safer. No matter what, in the eyes of others, he was indeed a coward who always chose to defend and had no way to resist. In fact, it was not that he did not want to resist, but that he had no way to resist. The suppression of power forced him to retreat again and again. Pass, come and help. Force them to retreat. Heavenly Venerable Tong Wu shouted, motioning for his companions to come and save him. Immediately, those Heavenly Venerables who wanted to kill Heavenly Venerable Sword C flew over to save Heavenly Venerable Tong Wu. Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others were once again abandoned and no longer attacked. This meant that Yi Tianyun's plan was a success. This was the effect he wanted. First, he killed Heavenly Venerable Tong Wu. Under their fierce attack, they would definitely send help. Empyrean Wise Star had an ugly look on his face as he signaled his companions to go and help. They were all in the same boat now, and if Empyrean Martial Dragon's side was destroyed, they wouldn't be any better off. The two batches of Empyreans rushed over. Only when the two of them cooperated would they be able to display the strongest effect. One to block and the other to attack. This was the best. Let's see how you escape this time. Celestial Venerable Tong Wu persisted, waiting for help to arrive. If he had been Tian Wu and Tian Heavens, he would not have been. Tian Wu would be able. If he had not been careless, he would have been able to suppress Yi Tianyun and prevent him from escaping. Although he could enter the void at will, if the space was sealed or under fierce attack, he would not be able to enter easily. When the void was unstable, he would not be able to enter. Yi Tianyun did not say a word. He was still waving his Star God Spear crazily, smashing down again and again, trying to break through the defense. Venerable Feng Qiu was equally anxious. If this continued, they could only choose to give up when reinforcements came. This defense is too strong. Stay away, let me subdue him. Venerable Feng Qiu transmitted, motioning for Yi Tianyun to move to the side. You're going all out? Yi Tianyun transmitted back. Yes, I can only go all out. After I'm done, I will be unable to move for a short period of time. I hope you can protect me then. Whether it's you or Little Gold, you cannot be hurt by them. Venerable Feng Qiu was about to erupt this time. She was not willing to erupt before mainly because the side effects were too strong. But if she did not erupt now, what awaited them was death. She could only choose to erupt. Killing these upper-level Empyreans first, the rest would be easier to deal with. There's no need to be like this. Don't worry, nothing will happen. Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes as he looked at the group of Empyreans rushing over, motioning for Venerable Feng Qiu not to be too rash. Venerable Feng Qiu was startled. Why was Yi Tianyun telling her not to erupt at this critical juncture? Could it be that Yi Tianyun had his own countermeasures? In the blink of an eye, two large groups of Empyreans had already surrounded them. Venerable Feng Qiu saw that it was already too late. She was prepared to ignore Yi Tianyun's persuasion, and was about to erupt with her strongest power. Suddenly, Yi Tianyun turned and pounced towards a group of Empyreans, as if he was suicidal. He actually delivered himself to our doorstep, truly overestimating himself. They were overjoyed in their hearts. Although Yi Tianyun's strength was very strong, with two large groups of powerhouses gathered together, the effect would be different. If they were combined, even a middle-stage upper-level Empyrean could be suppressed. Seal. One of the groups of Empyreans immediately chose to seal the space around Yi Tianyun. This time, he didn't even have a chance to escape. Since space was sealed, it was naturally impossible to escape. Especially the power of the void, it was sealed in a small region. In this state, it was basically unable to display its previous effects, which meant that the power of the void had lost its effectiveness. Attack. At this time, another group of Empyreans started to attack Yi Tianyun's side. When it was sealed, it was equivalent to catching a turtle in a jar. At this time, Yi Tianyun revealed a trace of a cold smile. "I've been waiting for this moment." The instant they attacked, Yi Tianyun suddenly vanished from where he was. He directly used instant transmission and flashed to the center of their great array formation. With a sweep of his spear, he instantly killed two middle-level Empyreans. After the two middle-level Empyreans were instantly killed, the balance of the great array formation was instantly destroyed. The energy that erupted immediately flowed back, directly exploding within their bodies. Boom! With a loud bang, their explosive attacks were all rebounded back to them. One by one, they were blasted away, falling from the sky. If they weren't dead, they were injured. In an instant, the powerhouses of the Great Array Formation were disintegrated. It was extremely easy. This was the effect that Yi Tianyun wanted. It was too troublesome to deal with them one by one. Dealing with them all in one go was the easiest and effortless way. As for the seal, it was indeed effective against his power of the void and could seal it. But don't forget, his true escape or sneak attack ability was instant transmission. Chapter 1484. Ding! Successfully killed a middle-level heavenly venerate. Obtained experience. Ding! Successfully killed a middle-level heavenly venerate. Obtained experience. Piles of experience kept pouring in. When the entire array was blown up, many cultivators still died. The attack that was originally enough to kill an upper-level heavenly venerate turned into an explosion inside the body. One could imagine how amazing the effect was. Killing a large group in one go. Even if some didn't die, they were seriously injured and unable to move. This was the drawback of the joint array formation. Once there was an imbalance, it might lead to a backlash. The power of the backlash was quite terrifying. It might destroy a group, or it might sacrifice only one. Yi Tianyun was waiting for the moment when their attacks condensed to the strongest, and then fiercely counterattacked, resulting in the greatest effect. He had been waiting for this. Otherwise, he wouldn't have attacked Heavenly Venerate Tungwu first. He first numbed their nerves and made them think that it was to attack Heavenly Venerate Tungwu. What he really wanted to deal with was this group of Heavenly Venerates. After killing them, a large number of Heavenly Venerates would be gone, and more than half of Heavenly Venerate Tongwu's subordinates would be gone. One could imagine how heartbroken that kind of feeling was. After paying such a price, it vanished into thin air just like that. Everything was gone. When Heavenly Venerate Tungwu saw the situation over here, he was stunned. His subordinates were all gone? Yi Tianyun wouldn't be stunned like them. His figure flashed, and he came to the center of another group of Heavenly Venerates and directly swept over. They had also been maintaining the sealing array all along. Hence, after scattering them, it would similarly cause a backlash. Hurry, quickly disperse. Heavenly Venerate Fertile Star roared, indicating for his companions to quickly disperse. But everything was too late. Yi Tianyun's speed was faster than his shouting. It was too funny. The stellar divine spear directly swept over the center of the array. Boom! Boom! This array was also scattered by one move, and each and every one of them suffered a serious backlash. However, their situation was far better than the other group of powerhouses. At most, they suffered some injuries. They weren't on the verge of death or dead. However, their combat power was basically gone, and they were all seriously injured. The power needed to condense the sealing area was similarly not low. Hence, the situation was not too ideal. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Tianyun quickly followed up with another shot. Basically, he killed one person with one shot. They couldn't even hide or escape. They were like targets standing there, waiting for him to attack. At this time, Heavenly Paragon Jianxi and the rest were not idle at all. They had already rushed over to help Yi Tianyun kill these heavenly paragons. Similarly, they were able to kill one with a single move, and it was extremely easy. Little junior brother is too powerful. Even such a powerful formation could be easily broken. The power of the void is so strong that even the seal has no effect. It doesn't look like the power of the void, but it's our junior brother. The two of them took on the role of harvesting, and began to harvest the heavily injured ones one by one. Seeing this scene, Emperor Tong Wu and the others roared, and wanted to rush over to kill Yi Tianyun. However, Emperor Yu Qian and the others erupted with formidable power and intercepted them. "You're all finished." Emperor Yu Qian and the rest looked coldly at Emperor Tong Wu and the rest. Now there were only a few upper Emperors left. Although they were similarly not easy to deal with, in the situation where there were no other obstacles, they at least did not need to worry about their attacks. Now that their momentum was lost, unless they fought desperately with each other, it was impossible for them to pose any threat. Watching Yi Tianyun and the rest harvest their subordinates one by one, their hearts twitched in pain. Not that they had any feelings, but the Emperors that they spent so much effort to nurture were gone just like that. So many Emperors died, causing the comprehensive level of their forces to plummet. Although celestial deities were the main combat power, Emperors were the backbone and fresh blood. Without an endless stream of Emperors coming up, how could celestial deities possibly appear? Go. Emperor Wuxia did not hesitate at all, calling his other companions, turning around and fleeing. They were only left with two upper Emperors. It was the same on Emperor Tong Wu's side. Bringing a batch of people, now there were only two left, adding up to 4 people. The upper Emperors, who were originally the main combat power, did not have any use here instead. It really made people feel ironic. Emperor Wuxia was straightforward, fleeing without even thinking, directly leaving Emperor Tong Wu here, and bringing his companions to flee inside the Dragon Sovereign Temple. Even if there was no way to take revenge, they had to snatch the treasures back no matter what. This was the key. As for the golden tree, they could only give up. If they still went to snatch the golden tree greedily, there would likely be danger. Even if they could resist each other, it would be hard to attack. Unless they went all out, only then would there be a possibility of winning. But this was seriously not worthwhile. It was also very dangerous. Under the circumstances where their comprehensive strength was about the same, going all out might cause them to suffer serious injuries. Suffering serious injuries at this critical juncture was not a good thing. Disregarding how dangerous it was ahead for the time being, just the Emperors pouring over endlessly from behind might take advantage of people's perilous state. Their forces were not weak, but if they were killed here, who would know? Hence, after Emperor Wuxia weighed the pros and cons, he could only choose to retreat first. At that time, he would find people to take revenge. Otherwise, if they clashed head-on now, the chances of victory were seriously too low. Emperor Wuxia. When Emperor Tong Wu saw Emperor Wuxia retreat, his heart turned cold, and he roared angrily. "Didn't you say to resist them together?" Emperor Wuxia did not even turn his head, nor did he even bother to say more than half a sentence. He ran right away. This speed was as fast as one wanted it to be. In the blink of an eye, he left them behind. Emperor Tong Wu's heart sank. When he wanted to turn around and escape at the same time, everything was too late. Emperor Yu Qian and the others intercepted and surrounded them. Now there were 3 upper-level Emperors facing 2 upper-level Emperors. The result was needless to say. Especially when there was a special aberration like Yi Tianyun, it was equivalent to 4 upper-level Emperors in disguise. Those who come out to make a living will eventually have to pay. Yi Tianyun flew over at this time. Behind him was a pile of corpses. They had long been eliminated by him. Emperor Tong Wu's expression was ugly. Even if he had endless anger, he also wanted to escape now. But now how could he escape? "Even if I die, I'll drag the few of you down with me." Emperor Tong Wu brandished the scythe in his hand. his eyes filled with rage and fighting spirit. Even if he died, he would die standing and not kneeling. Is that so? Then let's try? Chapter 1485. After Emperor Tong Wu was eliminated, everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. Originally, they could have stopped Emperor Tong Wu and the others, but Emperor Yu Qian and the others did not do so. This was because of comprehensive considerations that they chose to let Emperor Tong Wu and the others go. In this way, wouldn't the remaining two be much easier to deal with? As for Emperor Tong Wu and the others, there was no need to worry. Once they caught up, wouldn't they be able to get rid of them? They did not believe that it would be smooth sailing. Could they just take the things and leave? This was impossible. Not to mention the Dragon Sovereign Shrine. Even their own shrines would have all sorts of restrictions. These places could only be opened by themselves, so it would be too naive to think that they could casually take away the treasures. After being eliminated, they all stayed beside the golden tree to rest. The battle just now had consumed a lot of energy, and they needed to rest for a while. There is no need to worry about Emperor Tong Wu. The grand array inside is even more dangerous. Many of their divine carver masters have died. If they want to break it, it will take a lot of effort. Emperor Fengqiu was more familiar with the situation here, and naturally knew what was going on. They nodded and quickly recovered. Emperor Fengqiu looked at Yi Tianyun's side with a complicated gaze. No wonder Yi Tianyun had said to leave it to him. Now it seemed that it was true. She had been overthinking, thinking that Yi Tianyun was just trying to be brave. Who knew that he was really strong? This situation was far beyond her imagination, and she was stunned. Yi Tianyun was meditating to recover at this time. He had also consumed a lot of energy. He was basically going all out, sweeping through everything in his way. The consumption was naturally astonishing, but he was not injured and recovering was not a big problem. While they were recovering, the golden tree next to them emitted a thick golden light. Suddenly, golden leaves began to rapidly grow back on its body. This time, the golden leaves became even more golden, even more resplendent. Very quickly, from its original bare appearance, it became lush and looked quite beautiful. In less than a moment, the entire golden tree was covered with golden leaves, covering the entire golden tree and quickly restored to its original appearance. This meant that the golden tree had completely recovered to its peak state and had successfully broken through. After it recovered, it began to tremble. Golden tree sap began to seep out of its body, and a few drops fell on their bodies. As soon as it landed on their bodies, it quickly seeped into their bodies and healed their injuries or recovered the energy they had consumed. More importantly, it had the effect of strengthening their physique. Their eyes lit up. The effect of the golden tree was indeed impressive. A little bit of the golden tree sap was enough to help them recover, and they might even be in a better state than before. Xiao Jin said, "Thank you for helping to protect him. This is your reward." Feng Qiuzun said with a smile. Even though the golden tree was in the midst of making a breakthrough, he had been paying close attention to the situation outside. In the end, it successfully resisted these people. It was intelligent and naturally knew that it had to repay them. The effect of the golden tree sap is really good. I've always heard of it, but I've never experienced it before. This time, I've experienced it. As expected of an extremely powerful demonic tree, it's equivalent to a spirit herb. Heavenly Venerable Sword Seaside, and turned to look at Heavenly Venerable Long Ming. Senior Brother Long Ming, why don't you have this effect? Heavenly Venerable Long Ming was a treant to begin with. They were both trees, so why was the difference so great? This is the same tree, different fates. Heavenly Venerable Long Ming glared at him, and could not be bothered with him. The same spirit herb had different effects. It was naturally impossible for Heavenly Venerable Long Ming to have this kind of effect. However, his blood indeed had a healing effect. But compared to the golden tree, the difference was not just a little bit. Everyone burst into laughter when they heard their conversation. How could it be compared like this? This was like comparing cultivators with cultivators. The difference in bloodlines was astonishing. Everyone could feel this. It's about time. It's time to continue walking inside. Yi Tianyun stood up, his gaze sharp. Heavenly Venerable Fertile Star definitely could not let them off. Wanting to silence them all, then it would be their turn to silence this batch of people this time. If they were not exterminated, it would definitely be extremely troublesome in the future. Especially after going out, Heavenly Venerable Fertile Star would definitely announce to the outside that the vast divine sect wiped out Heavenly Venerable Tongwu. This way, Sacred Peak Divine Realm side would definitely come to find trouble with them. Of course, it was also possible that they would swallow this matter and not dare to find trouble with Tianyan and the others. After all, the Great Devis had already returned to Heaven Cultivation Divine Realm. With Heaven Cultivation Divine Realm's protection, Sacred Peak Divine Realm and Myriad Heaven Divine Realm would not dare to act recklessly. At most, they could come secretly, but it was impossible to come openly. No matter what, they had to eliminate Heavenly Venerable Fertile Star. They had to take revenge, that was their motto. One by one, they stood up and walked inside under Feng Qiuzun's lead. The golden tree shrunk into a small tree and landed on her shoulder, following them inside. Now they had another helper, and it could even help heal others. Under Feng Qiuzun's lead, they passed through the temple and entered a passage. There was nothing special in this passage. Heavenly Venerable Fertile Star had long disappeared. This area is safe, don't worry. Feng Qiuzun reminded them from the side, then led the way forward. Not every part of Dragon Sovereign Shrine had all kinds of formations. That would be too much work. Moreover, there was the golden tree blocking in front, which was already a kind of protection. Soon they passed through the passage in front of them. After walking out, their eyes suddenly opened up. What came into view was a long staircase that led to the highest peak of the clouds. Heavenly Venerable Fertile Star was constantly climbing up, walking up step by step with great difficulty. Other than that, there was nothing around. It seemed that as long as they climbed to the top, there would be something there. This is the divine staircase that my uncle built. He likes to live in the top area. Go up this staircase, and the top is the end. Feng Qiuzun said in a low voice. Above, there are all of Uncle's treasures and also Uncle's will. Uncle's will? Tianyan looked up. He could clearly feel that these staircases contained a special energy. But this was a very normal thing. Seeing how difficult it was for Heavenly Venerable Fertile Star to walk, he knew that it would not be easy to go up. It would take a lot of effort. Yes, it is Uncle's divine lightning will. If you want to pass through here, the best way is to control the power of lightning. Back then I wanted to control it, but I couldn't. Feng Qiuzun's eyes dimmed, but she spoke of what she had done before. Chapter 1486. Initially, Tianyan had thought that Feng Qiuzun was absorbing the power of lightning to condense a lightning core, but who knew that it was not for that, but for the Dragon Sovereign Shrine. Looking up into the sky, there was indeed dense divine lightning swimming in the black clouds. But it had not struck down yet, and he did not know how strong it was. Only with a lightning core can one climb higher, or reach the end? Tianyan looked up and asked. That is not the case, the difficulty is definitely not small. If there is a lightning core, it will be much easier. The main thing is to inherit Uncle's will, to be able to open the final door. Venerable Feng Qiu told Tianyan everything. As their cooperation deepened, she trusted Tianyan more and more. Anything that was not a secret could be said in full. In any case, there were some things that could not be done, and were not very detailed. For example, how to go through the passageway. These were more confidential matters. If there is no, then there is no way to inherit your uncle's will? Tianyan thought for a moment, then added. Not even with blood relations. It seems that it is not possible, not even with blood relations. The main thing was that the situation was too sudden. Uncle did not even have time to react, and had already entered the Divine Realm War. I believe everyone knows the result. Feng Qiuzun sighed deeply, somewhat sorrowful. This was indeed too sudden. The Divine Realm War had suddenly happened. Feng Qiuzun's uncle would definitely have immediately accepted the challenge. The result was obvious, he was basically dead. If he did not die, he would definitely still be alive, and would even be an overlord. Ancient heavenly venerables were no joke, especially after breaking through to heavenly god. They were ancient heavenly gods. Ancient heavenly gods were extremely powerful, far more powerful than most of the current experts. Thinking about it, Feng Qiuzun's talent was indeed shocking. There was definitely some ancient bloodline in her. And it was just a generation gap. The effect was undoubtedly even more shocking. But Feng Qiuzun was a little too young. Didn't that mean that her parents were still alive? If that was the case, then there would be 2 ancient heavenly venerables, and even heavenly gods. Doesn't that mean you have no chance at all? Yi Tianyan said in shock. Did this mean that she had come here for nothing? It's not that there isn't. I'm just saying that relying on bloodlines is meaningless. We can only rely on our own strength, and a bit of luck, to be able to do this. Venerable Feng Qiu looked up. Now we have to fight for time. Quickly climb up. Only here is the true passageway. Yi Tianyan recalled the map. Indeed, this was the end of the deepest part. As for what exactly was there, he had no idea. Soon after, they all climbed up the divine staircase. The moment they climbed up, Yi Tianyan immediately felt his feet go numb, as if he had been electrocuted. However, that was all. This was just the initial stage, so it was impossible for there to be a lot of strong electric currents. From this, it could be seen that Heavenly Venerate Longyun mainly cultivated the power of thunder. That was why he had set this up. The power of lightning, as well as the lightning flashing in the sky, were the best proof. Damn it, they still caught up in the end? When Heavenly Venerate Fertile Star saw Yi Tianyan and the others catching up, he could only quicken his pace. But every step was so difficult, as if his feet were fixed on the stairs. When he raised his feet, they were dragged down by the dense lightning, and his whole body felt numb. Heavenly Venerate Fertile Star did not possess the power of thunder, nor did he cultivate in this aspect. The power of thunder was not bad, but it was also a bit sparse. He mainly cultivated one of the 5 elements, so it really depended on luck if he wanted to find someone suitable for him. Yi Tianyan just happened to have the power of thunder, but he had condensed it later, so it was extremely easy for him here. Stepping on it, the power of thunder under his feet not only did not cause any harm to him, but instead strengthened his thunder core. This kind of feeling was truly enjoyable. The others, on the other hand, found it more and more difficult to walk. They could only choose to expel the power of thunder from their bodies, otherwise it could endlessly gather in their bodies. And there was a possibility of danger. Seeing that guy in front, I really want to hit him. When Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler saw Heavenly Venerate Fertile Star in front, he couldn't help but want to make a move. Don't make a move. If you make a move here, you will attract the divine thunder, and it will be disadvantageous to you. Heavenly Venerate Feng Qiu hurriedly advised. I was just saying, how would I dare to really make a move? Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler laughed dryly. He knew that he couldn't make a move here. If he could, Heavenly Venerate Feng Qiu would have made a move first. They could all feel that there was a special restriction around here. If they made a move, the divine thunder would definitely greet them first. This was not to protect the trial takers, but simply to prevent anyone from making a move here and destroying their own territory. As they climbed higher and higher, the situation became worse and worse. The terrifying power of thunder strengthened greatly. Those with stronger physiques could still continue to persevere, while those with weaker physiques felt their whole body go numb. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler was lagging behind a little. His situation was the worst, and he could no longer keep up with the pace of the others. They were all Empyreans, but the things that Empyreans set up back then were incomparably powerful, easily suppressing middle-level Empyreans. Upper-level Empyreans' situation was still acceptable, and they could all quickly keep up. Among them, the most relaxed was none other than Yi Tianyan. It wasn't that his physique was heaven-defying, but it was all thanks to condensing a thunder core within his body. Fortunately, he condensed this thunder core back then. Otherwise, it would definitely not be too easy for him here. Truly comparing physiques, he was still slightly inferior compared to Empyrean Yu Qian and the rest. The only thing that could compete with them was his combat strength. Crazy damage mode would not strengthen his physique, but it purely enhanced his combat strength. Hence, the standard of his physique was at most comparable to the middle-late stage Empyrean standard, and could not be much stronger. Hence, Tianyan now took on the task of surpassing Empyrean Fertile Star with the fastest speed and reaching the peak. The rest of his companions would at most go up a little slower, but it was not impossible. Especially Empyrean Yuqian and the rest, there was basically no pressure. They just needed to spend a bit more time. Very soon, Tianyan swiftly caught up behind Empyrean Fertile Star. The two were only separated by a dozen meters. Normally he only needed one step and he could easily reach. Now he needed to chase several dozen more steps before he could reach. You have a thunder attribute physique? When Empyrean Fertile Star saw Tianyan catching up, his expression was not too good. If this continued, he would definitely be caught. Chapter 1487. So what if I am, so what if I'm not? Tianyan grinned at Empyrean Fertile Star, looking like he was seeing an old friend. Empyrean Fertile Star snorted coldly. So what if you go up first? When the time comes, just wait to be taken care of by me. In his view, Tianyan's strength was indeed not bad, but he was not the kind that was very strong. Perhaps he appeared and disappeared a little mysteriously, but the overall situation was not very heaven-defying. As long as it was a one-on-one battle, especially when there were two people on his side, could 2 against 1 not be enough? Is that so? Tianyan smiled faintly. He suddenly rushed up and aimed at one of the upper-level Empyreans, kicking out. With a dong, that upper-level Empyrean was directly sent flying by his kick. This extremely terrifying kick directly caused that upper-level Empyrean's body to cave in. Before Empyrean Fertile Star could react, Tianyan quickly flew out and kicked out again. However, this Empyrean Fertile Star was already prepared and quickly reached out to block. Unless Tianyan kicked Empyrean Fertile Star away first, it would still give Empyrean Fertile Star enough time to react. Even so, Empyrean Y Star was still kicked and sent flying out of the divine staircase, falling straight down from midair. At this time their eyes were filled with horror. Was Tianyan courting death? Rumble. At this time, the divine thunder quickly struck down on Tianyan. The terrifying divine thunder rotated rapidly in the void and struck Tianyan. Such a deafening sound was like the anger of a violator. Because Tianyan directly used his fists and feet, and not the kind of explosive energy or long-range attack. That kind of attack would immediately be offset or immediately punished by the divine lightning. Or when he took out a weapon, the divine lightning would immediately judge that he was in danger. Now it was a close-range attack. No one thought that Tianyan would do this, not even the divine lightning. Is he crazy? Feng Qiuzun was stunned. They had agreed not to attack recklessly. If they did, they might be struck to death. At this time, Tianyan suddenly jumped out of the divine staircase, as if he was trying to escape from the divine lightning. However, it was meaningless. The terrifying divine lightning struck down heavily, piercing through him. Tianyan felt a sharp pain in his body, and his body quickly turned into charcoal. The terrifying divine lightning coursed through his body. Even though he had a lightning core, he could not withstand the terrifying power of the divine lightning. In an instant his 4 limbs exploded. They were as fragile as tree branches, splitting into several pieces with a single strike. Not only his arms, but even his legs were quickly turned into powder. Haha, well done, well done. Kill this guy who broke the rules. Do you think you can hide? If I could, I would have killed you first. Empyrean Fertile Star laughed heartily, feeling carefree and carefree. He felt that Tianyan deserved to die. At the same time, he felt that this power was extremely terrifying. It was because he felt that the power was astonishing that he did not dare to act recklessly. The higher he climbed, the more he felt that there was a terrifying divine lightning above. The power was absolutely not inferior to being attacked by a heavenly deity. This meant that if one wanted to mess around here, one was either a half-step heavenly deity or a heavenly deity. Otherwise, it was courting death. While everyone was stunned, suddenly, Tianyan, who was in midair, emitted a burst of fire. Behind him, dragon and phoenix phantoms instantly appeared. In an instant, rising from the ashes erupted. The body that had originally turned into charcoal immediately regenerated. Exquisite and smooth skin, a complete and sturdy body. There were no changes at all. In the blink of an eye, he recovered. This heaven-defying recovery power left everyone dumbfounded. Die. The stellar divine spear in Tianyun's hands rapidly turned into a sharp light, directly piercing down from midair. That upper-level Empyrean who was originally gloating, thinking that he was facing a corpse, recovered in the blink of an eye. Furthermore, he held his weapon and rapidly turned down. Before he could react, the attack had already pierced through his body. His original smile immediately froze. No one had expected that Tianyun could actually still move. Not to say that he would not die, but from the looks of it, he was definitely heavily injured. But suddenly, he recovered, becoming completely unharmed. Open! Tianyun fiercely waved his hand. Just like that, an upper-level Empyrean was destroyed by him, completely cut in half. Originally, it should not have been so easy to deal with. The other party had been too careless, thinking that he was dead for sure, or that he was so heavily injured that he could not move. It was precisely this carelessness that allowed him to eliminate this upper-level Empyrean. Then, Tianyun landed steadily on the ground. There was not a single wound on his body. There was no problem at all. Phew, the feeling of death is really not good. Tianyun shook his head. That feeling of death was indeed very intense. Just as he was about to collapse, the rising from the ashes skill automatically activated. In the blink of an eye, he recovered, but the cooldown time was several years. Of course, this was not a big problem. As long as he used more cooling divine stones, or cooling divine talismans, there would be no problem. Logically speaking, he should eliminate Empyrean Wuxia first. But Empyrean Wuxia was slightly more difficult. He was at the middle-level Empyrean level. His other companion was different. He was only at the early-level Empyrean level. This meant that the success rate of killing him was a bit higher. Therefore, Tianyun chose the one that could be killed the most successfully, and not depending on which one was more important. To catch bandits, first catch the king. He understood this principle. But this king was so powerful. He could not be easily killed. If he missed this opportunity, it would be troublesome. Little junior brother. After they saw, they were instantly delighted. They had thought that Tianyun was heavily injured. Who would have thought that he was completely fine? It looked like it was a smokescreen. Empyrean Feng Qiu heaved a sigh of relief. They all thought that Tianyun was dead for sure, or heavily injured. Now it seemed that this was still part of the plan? How can this be? Empyrean Wuxia's eyes widened. He felt that this was very inconceivable. He was clearly on the verge of death. How did he suddenly come back to life? Just what kind of ability was this, to be able to do this? Or perhaps it was all an illusion. There was nothing wrong with Tianyun at all. No matter what, after Empyrean Wuxia reacted, he quickly ran up the divine staircase. He did not fight with Tianyun, because Empyrean Yuqian and the others all wanted to jump down from the divine staircase and attack him together. As long as they attacked him together, he would not be able to turn things around. Therefore, as long as he continued to climb up the divine staircase, it was equivalent to having an extra layer of protection. What? Not coming down to fight? Tianyun said indifferently. Or rather, not taking revenge for your companion? He saw Empyrean Wuxia quickly scurrying up. He walked over step by step, wanting to try and provoke Empyrean Wuxia to get him to roll down and fight with him. Chapter 1488. Empyrean Fertile Star still sped up, his speed getting faster and faster instead. He could not even be bothered with the injuries on his body. That kick of Tianyun's just now was not light. It was even very heavy, but it was all on his arm. At most, it would just break 1 or 2 bones. To this level of cultivation, it could only be considered a superficial wound standard. After recovering a little, there would be no problem. Why? Still running so fast. Come down if you have the capabilities. Tianyun shouted, hinting for Empyrean Fertile Star to come down. But Empyrean Fertile Star completely ignored him and still ran forward. How could his speed slow down? Empyrean Fertile Star was not a fool. He knew what his fate would be if he came down. He would suffer a group attack. He was not an invincible existence either. It was naturally impossible to go down. unless it was a one-on-one battle. But would they fight one-on-one? The answer was definitely not. They would only fight one-on-one against a group. Previously, it was bullying with numbers. Etianyan they all were even less fools. They only knew how to gang up and did not care about whatever fairness. Whose fist was bigger was the true hard and fast logic. Etianyan shrugged his shoulders helplessly and continued to chase forward, climbing the divine ladder together. Following him rapidly catching up, Empyrean Fertile Star sped up his footsteps even more, swiftly rushing forward, pulling apart a distance from Etianyan. But the further back, the closer the distance was. Since Etianyan could catch up previously, he could catch up even more now. Effortlessly, Etianyan caught up, scaring Empyrean Fertile Star until he dodged to the side, not daring to get too close to Etianyan. If he attacked again, he would have to start running all over again. It would be rather troublesome. The key was that after being beaten down, he would be surrounded by Empyrean Wuxia and the rest, guarding the stairs. Then he would have no way of going up. Might as well just stand right where he was, staring fixedly at Etianyan to see what he wanted to do. Etianyan could not be bothered with him and continued charging forward, chasing straight after Empyrean Wuxia and the rest. As for attacking, forget about it. There was still rising from the ashes previously. If he died again, it would have to consume his life bar. The key was that it wasn't just one life that could be reborn, but 100. This is equivalent to 10 billion crazy points to be reborn once. It wasn't like before, where one life could be resurrected. With the increase in his cultivation, he would need to consume even more resources. It was impossible to maintain the same standards as before. A lot of data had changed, whether it was here or in terms of experience. There had been significant changes. Actually, this number was still acceptable. It was just that the other party was already on guard and wouldn't give him any chance to launch a sneak attack. It was likely that Empyrean Wise Star would be able to dodge it as soon as he attacked. Very quickly, Etianyan rushed over and caught up to Heavenly Venerate Wuxia and the others. Little junior brother, you really scared me to death. I thought you were finished just now. Sword Ruler Heavenly Paragon had a frightened look on his face. That's right. It's too dangerous to suddenly rush over like that. It wouldn't be worth it to perish together with those guys. Everyone was shocked. No one expected Etianyan to do this. Fortunately, nothing happened. I was indeed finished just now. Fortunately, I managed to save my life. Etianyan smiled and said, "Don't worry this time. He definitely can't catch up, and he won't dare to catch up." How could Heavenly Venerate Wise Star dare to catch up? If he was attacked by Etianyan and was kicked out again, he would definitely be finished. Now they can go up normally. Heavenly Venerate Wise Star was scared and didn't dare to come up. Even if Etianyan doesn't want to live, he still wants to live. Therefore, he could only follow behind, but the distance was still quite far. He didn't dare to get too close. Looking at his cowardly appearance, they couldn't help but want to laugh. A dignified upper-level celestial master was so scared by Etianyan. It was really the first time. Below, Heavenly Venerate Wise Star was about to explode. If it weren't for safety reasons, he would have already rushed up. When I get out, you are dead. Heavenly Venerate Wise Star cursed them in his heart, but he didn't dare to approach them. As they climbed up bit by bit, they got closer and closer to the peak. Their feet also became more and more numb. The power of thunder and lightning constantly swam through their bodies. They could only keep expelling it. Because there was more time, they didn't need to be too anxious at all. They were the first batch to go up. Who would fight with them for it? Even Heavenly Venerate Wise Star stayed far away from them. He wouldn't even dare to rush over. Even if other cultivators came, they would start climbing from the bottom. By the time they caught up, Etianyan would have long reached the peak. A little more and we'll reach the peak. Heavenly Venerate Fengqiu looked at the clouds above and said solemnly, "After passing through this cloud layer, the peak is above." They nodded and quickly quickened their footsteps. Actually, they were pretty much going up step by step. They couldn't go fast even if they wanted to. After entering the cloud layer, the power of the thunder and lightning rapidly strengthened several times. It made their bodies tremble. This feeling was really uncomfortable. Yi Tianyun's situation was much better. The thunder core in his body became stronger and stronger. This was equivalent to a kind of disguised cultivation. Although the difficulty had increased, it was still within an acceptable range. They weren't ordinary heavenly venerates to begin with. If they couldn't even pass through this, then they really didn't have any ability. This place could stop many heavenly venerates, but they belonged to the exception. With super strong willpower and decent ability, passing through here was no problem. Finally, after passing through the thick lightning cloud layer, what entered their eyes was a palace. They didn't expect that there would be another palace floating in the air inside the shrine. After stepping onto the last floor, the power of thunder and lightning completely disappeared. Everything returned to normal. Looking over, there were many divine lightnings surging in the thick cloud layer at the side. If they jumped over, they would probably be electrocuted into charcoal. It was not a wise choice to fight here. We're finally here. This is my uncle's residence. Heavenly Venerate Feng Qiu explained solemnly. Because uncle is no longer here, this place automatically switched to defense mode. Anyone who enters will be judged as an intruder. This includes me. If you want to stop, the only way is to become the master of this place. The way to become the master of this place is very simple. Just forcefully enter inside, and then suppress the artifact spirit inside. This sounded simple, but the difficulty of actually accomplishing it was definitely extremely difficult. To control the treasure of an ancient heavenly venerate, the price needed to be paid was enormous. This was completely different from selecting disciples. They just had to transform into intruders, forcefully slaughter their way in, and finally suppress the artifact spirit to complete the mission. At that time, they would be able to become the master of this place and control the dragon-revered shrine at will. This place was equivalent to the core of the dragon-revered shrine. Controlling the core would make it their own treasure. Chapter 1489. Hearing Feng Qiuzun's words, they looked at each other. It was clear that this was not something that could be done easily, and it required teamwork to succeed. Of course, they were a team now, and could work together to suppress it. If they were to suppress it alone, it would be extremely difficult. If we cultivate the power of lightning, it will be easier to control this core? Yi Tianyun asked from the side. Yes, uncle cultivates the power of lightning. If we use a similar power to forcefully control it, the success rate will increase. But this is not absolute. As long as we have enough time, we can control it. Correspondingly, it will take longer. Feng Qiuzun explained. I cultivate the power of lightning. Then I will control this shrine. How about it? Yi Tianyun said very straightforwardly. Feng Qiuzun was silent. Without even guessing, Yi Tianyun knew that Feng Qiuzun wanted to control the shrine, and not give it to someone else. Feng Qiuzun, I can take control of the shrine first. When this is over, I can give it to you. Yi Tianyun added. Really? Feng Qiuzun's beautiful eyes showed surprise. This was what she was most worried about. She had come to take over the dragon-revered shrine. No matter what, it was her uncle's inheritance. How could she not take it? But we need to discuss some conditions. As for the distribution of the treasures inside, Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes and said, we can't help for nothing, right? Of course, if you choose to join my force, we won't take a single cent from the shrine. Sword C Empyrean almost laughed out loud. Wasn't this bullshit? She had already joined the Three Realms God realm. Wouldn't the treasure still belong to Yi Tianyun? Even if she didn't get a single treasure, when she needed Feng Qiuzun, she would still come. In the end, even if they didn't take the resources here, it was the same as giving them to Feng Qiuzun to cultivate, especially at the crucial moment. They would still be Feng Qiuzun's helpers. You are making things difficult for me. Feng Qiuzun shook her head and sighed. I choose the former. Let's split the treasures. I know that if I want to succeed, I have to pay a price. I came here with the attitude of giving it a try. Whether I succeed or not is another matter. The distribution of the treasures is very simple. I only want uncle's inheritance, which is this ancient site. The rest of the treasures, you can basically take them. What I want is Shaojin and this shrine. Venerable Feng Qiu was very generous. She provided instructions on how to enter, or how to break through. It could be said that she had a huge advantage. She should have gotten a bigger share, but she didn't want any reward. She just wanted these two things. The shrine here was very precious, but it could also be said that it was not. As long as there were no treasures here, it could only be regarded as a decent moving palace. Feng Qiuzun said, Feng Qiuzun said, Feng Tianzun said, Zun Qiuzun said, Feng said, 1-1. Unsaid. Feng. No, I like to be alone. I don't like to join any forces. Feng Qiuzun shook her head, her beautiful eyes filled with disappointment. Yi Tianyan stared at Feng Qiuzun. He could see that Feng Qiuzun was very happy, but she still chose to refuse. He could see that Feng Qiuzun's impression of him was rising, and under normal circumstances, it would not be a problem to win her over. But she still refused. There must be something she couldn't say, otherwise she would not have refused. Along the way, she must have been tempted, and wanted to join some decent forces. She still chose to refuse. There must be something she couldn't say. All right, then let's split it like this. Yi Tianyan did not stand on ceremony. They had paid a lot as well. Yu Qian and the others were from the same sect, but it did not mean that they did not want anything. They still had to split what needed to be split. Entering this place was fatal. If they did not get anything, it would be too much of a loss. After a simple explanation, they quickly walked towards the door. Feng Qiuzun sized it up and said solemnly, "This door can only be forcefully opened, or the imprint on it can be broken. Otherwise it cannot be opened." The towering door in front of them did not have any switches, nor did it have any grooves or anything like that. Either it was opened by the artifact spirit inside, or it could be broken through, or it could be forcefully broken through. These were the three methods. Letting the artifact spirit inside open the door was simply wishful thinking. It would already be good if they were not exterminated, let alone help open the door. Break the imprint. Yi Tianyan narrowed his eyes as he sized up the imprint. If he forcefully broke it, it would definitely be the most difficult to break, and the time it would take was also the greatest. Breaking the imprint also required time, but it was the same as unlocking a lock. Unlocking a lock, a large door could be easily broken open. Breaking it by force was the same as constantly smashing the door. It would be fine if the door was weak, but if the door was incomparably hard, then it would be extremely difficult to break. Often the simplest way to break it was to break the imprint. Break it by force, there's nothing to say about that. Cultivating the imprint is too difficult. The highest level we have here is a second-grade Divine Inscription Master. If we want to break it, the difficulty is just too great. It's basically impossible. Empyrean knew the situation on his side, so he naturally wanted to choose to break it by force. Empyrean Yu Qian and the others nodded. This was the only way for now. Empyrean Fengqiu was also a Divine Inscription Master, but her rank was slightly lower, only at the 3rd grade. Divine Inscription Masters above the 6th or 7th grade were not cabbages. They required a lot of time to cultivate. A high-grade Divine Inscription Master's cultivation is definitely not weak. A cultivator's cultivation is not necessarily weak, but their level might not be. Using brute force to break it is too slow. With the defensive power of this door, it will take us half a year to open it. Yi Tianyan shook his head and said, "Let me break it. It will be faster than breaking it by force. The most important thing is that it won't take much effort, and I can preserve my strength to break it." Little junior apprentice brother, you can break the imprint here? They were all shocked. Only a 6th or 7th grade Divine Inscription Master, or above, could break it. If Yi Tianyan said that he could break it, then didn't that mean that his Divine Inscription Master rank had reached the 6th or 7th grade? This was really scary. Since when were 6th or 7th grade Divine Inscription Masters so worthless? Or was it when one's cultivation was so low? I'll give it a try. Whether or not I can break it is another matter. In any case, there's nothing wrong with trying. Yi Tianyan smiled. He naturally had confidence in his heart. With just a glance he knew how to break it. Chapter 1490. Yi Tianyan's words caused them to glance at each other. They didn't have much confidence in their hearts. Give it a try. If we casually break it, there is a chance that it will rebound. Emperor Fengqiu was a bit speechless. Not everything could be casually tried. If the energy above the divine seal were to rebound, it would be the same as being ruthlessly struck by an Empyrean. The truth was that this was the same as messing around with the divine seal. If the divine seal was slightly damaged, it would cause the energy to leak out. This would be the same as being struck by a heavy blow. I understand this. I can't guarantee whether or not I can break it. But whether or not it will rebound, I won't make such a mistake. Yi Tianyan smiled. He came in front of the door and began to break it. Breaking it was very simple. All he had to do was break the most crucial God seal on it. Then the overall God seal would be broken. Although it was easy to say, it was very difficult to implement. If he didn't know where the key point was, how could he break it? Even if he knew the key point, whether or not he could break it was another matter. Yi Tianyan carefully looked at the top, looking for the key points, and found all of them. Empyrean Sword C and the others were also watching from the side. They wanted to see if they could find any clues that could help Yi Tianyan. At this time, Empyrean Wise Star had already caught up. He wasn't too far away to begin with, so it wasn't surprising that he could keep up. It was just that he hadn't completely climbed up. He was still on the side of the divine ladder, shrouded in the power of thunder, making him feel uncomfortable. Yi Tianyan and the others were above, so how could he dare to casually go up? Once he went up, he would leave the protection, and there was a chance he would be besieged. Does that boy want to break the divine seal and destroy this door? What an idiot! Without a 6th or 7th grade divine inscription master, or above, it is impossible to break it. I'm afraid his eyes won't be able to see anything, right? Below, Empyrean Wise Star mocked, thinking that their actions were laughable. The previous channel indeed required a high level to pass through. However, it didn't really require a 6th or 7th grade divine inscription master. It was just that a 6th or 7th grade divine inscription master needed a much shorter time. Empyrean Wise Star just so happened to be a 5th grade divine inscription master, so he was able to see through this. With a single glance, he knew that there was no way he could break the God seal on the door. He could only choose to break it with brute force. In a while they will forcefully break through the barrier. Their consumption will definitely not be low. Once they have consumed too much of their energy, we will launch a sneak attack. Empyrean Fertile Star's eyes revealed a cold and gloomy light. He also had a card in his hand, but he wasn't willing to use it until the critical moment. If it was mainly used for a sneak attack, the effect would be the best. If it was not used for a sneak attack, the effect would be greatly reduced. After all, he had already blocked it in advance, so how could the effect be any better? He had been hiding by the side, waiting for them to start breaking the barrier with brute force. In his opinion, Yi Tianyan and the rest would definitely break the barrier with brute force. Based on what he knew, these people would not be able to break the divine seal. As for Yi Tianyan, he did not care about him at all. Perhaps he had decent strength, but it did not mean that he could break the divine seal. That kid is really strange. He is also at the Divine Lord level. This is not possible. When Empyrean Fertile Star sensed Yi Tianyan's cultivation again, he was still deeply shocked. Previously, he thought that Yi Shiwen was hiding his strength. Now from the looks of it, it did not seem to be the case. Yi Shiwen really had Divine Lord cultivation. But was this really possible? Was there such a powerful Divine Lord? While he was lying in ambush behind, the other Empyreans were watching Yi Tianyan's situation. At the same time, they were also watching the situation behind them. They naturally knew that Empyrean Fertile Star was lying in ambush behind them. But even at the back, it was impossible for them not to break the barrier, right? Knowing that they might be ambushed, they could only brace themselves and break the barrier. Otherwise, when more people gathered, it would be troublesome. All right. Yi Tianyan suddenly shouted, attracting everyone's attention. What's the matter? They came over and asked. I already know how to break it. It might take a long time. Wait a moment, Yi Tianyan said with a smile. You can really break this divine seal? They were startled, feeling very surprised. Do you think I would lie to you? Yi Tianyan smiled. Not really, but how do we break it? Empyrean Sword C, and the others still felt that it was impossible. The difficulty was just too great. How can we break it? Isn't it just breaking the divine seals one by one? Do you want me to break them with brute force? Tianyan waved his hand and said, I won't say any more. You all just wait on the side. After he dropped these words, he immediately rushed towards a spot and began to rapidly break it. His fingers rapidly tapped on the surface, choosing the most fragile spot to break it. Little junior apprentice brother, you really want to break the divine seal from the divine seal. If you can really break it, then that means you have the strength of a 6th or 7th grade divine carving master. How did you cultivate like that? You ask me, but who do I ask? They looked at each other, feeling a chill run down their spines. A divine lord level martial artist beating up an Empyrean was already monstrous enough. If a 6th or 7th grade divine carving master was added to the mix, then how could they live? Following that, Tianyan began to rapidly break through the divine seals at an incredible speed. His speed was quite amazing. After several moves, a divine seal was broken. This speed left them dumbfounded. In the blink of an eye, one of the divine seals was broken. Then he quickly broke through the next divine seal. What's going on? This breaking speed. I've never seen anything like this before. It's already good enough that he can break through it. Is this speed slow? If this speed is slow, then all the divine carving masters I've seen before are nothing more than snails. They all thought that when Tianyan said it would take a long time, he meant that it would take a long time to break through the divine seals. But now how could it be slow? It was as fast as flying. In just a few moves he had broken through the divine seals as easily as drinking water. This time, Tianyan had opened his breaking speed to 128 times the normal speed, so how could it be slow? In a frenzied state, his breaking speed was simply too amazing. He thought that it would be more difficult to break through these divine seals because he rarely came into contact with these things. But who knew that after he started breaking through them, he simply couldn't stop. It was simply too easy. He easily broke through them. He swept through them all the way, shocking everyone. Even Empyrean Walker Star, who was lying in ambush, nearly tumbled down the stairs. He rubbed his eyes and stared at Lin Ming with wide eyes. He said in amazement, "What kind of freak is this? A 6th or 7th grade divine seal is wiped away like a rag. It's gone in the blink of an eye." Chapter 1491. Such a crazy method of breaking through caused everyone to be stunned. And the one who was the most shocked was none other than Feng Qiuzun. This was her uncle's relic, and the divine seal on it was personally carved by her uncle. She was very clear on how high the level was. Now that it was easily broken by Tianyan, it meant that Tianyan's level was even higher. This reminded her of the extremely dangerous path she had taken in the passageway. Tianyan could rely on luck to walk the right path a few times, but now that she thought about it carefully, it was not luck at all, but strength. Tianyan had long seen through the correct path, and even lied to her that it was luck. Now she understood everything. It was all about strength. It was fine if he was lucky once or twice, but to be able to succeed every time, it had already proven everything. It was just that she was too stupid, and common sense limited her thoughts. Those with low cultivation would definitely not be of a high grade. It was this kind of common sense that led to a wrong result. He lied to me. Feng Qiuzun bit her lips, thinking about how Tianyan walked so easily behind her, and even dragged her back at the crucial moment. Only now did she know that an expert was watching her play behind her back. When this is over, see how I will settle the score with him. After Feng Qiuzun thought about it, she decided on what to do. To actually tease her like this, how could she forgive him so easily? She thought about how she had carefully walked forward step by step, and probably thought that Tianyan was laughing at her behind her back. Tianyan was completely unaware of their thoughts. He only focused on breaking the divine seals, sweeping and breaking them one by one. In a short few hours he finally broke all the divine seals here. There were simply too many crucial divine seals on the door. They were densely packed together, forming an extremely sturdy door. To break it would take a lot of time. This was also thanks to him activating his 128 times speed. If it was under normal circumstances, he would need at least 10 days to half a month to be able to break it. Open for me. Tianyan aimed at the door and slammed it. Then, the huge door slowly opened, and a surge of lightning power poured out from inside. Tianyan was immediately enveloped, and so were the others. However, they quickly prepared to defend themselves. A moment later, the power of lightning slowly dissipated, and everything returned to normal. Tianyan wasn't affected at all. Instead, he sucked until he was full. This bit of energy was nothing to him, and he could easily absorb it. Let's go in. Tianyan led the way. Feng Qiuzun and the rest then reacted and quickly followed. After they entered, Tianyan reached out and slapped the door shut. Inside, Tianyan knocked on the door a few times, and it was sealed again. On the other side of the gate, there was also a similar seal, but it was much simpler than the one outside, because according to the original design, just the seal on the outside was enough. There weren't many seals inside. For this, Tianyan had to redraw it and add a few more seals. This time, even if Empyrean Wise Star wanted to come in, he would have to spend some effort. Alright, let's go. I don't want to let those guys come in so casually. That would be too easy on them. Tianyan smiled and followed Feng Qiuzun and the rest in. Sure enough, after he finished setting it up, Empyrean Wise Star waited for a while before jumping up from the divine ladder. After jumping up, he slightly eased the power of lightning in his body. If I stay here for too long, I'll really go crazy. After slightly easing, he turned his gaze to the door. This guy can really break it. What the hell? But this is also good. It saves a lot of time to break it. When he came to the door and pushed it a little, he found that it wouldn't budge. Damn it, they actually locked it from the inside. Empyrean Wise Star immediately knew that it must have been locked from the inside. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such an effect. Immediately, he could only brace himself and start smashing the door. However, this was not something that could be easily smashed. No matter what, it would take a period of time before he could break it. At this time, Empyrean Feng Qiu led them inside. Empyrean Feng Qiu was more familiar with this place, so she must have personally led the way. Little junior brother, isn't the level of your divine seals too high? I feel that not to mention 6th or 7th grade, it should be at least 8th or 9th grade. The speed at which you break it is so fast, it's really scary. Empyrean Sword Ruler said in surprise. 8th or 9th grade divine carving master. I want to. Tianyan shook his head. Now that he had broken through to the 7th grade, he had completely used up the 2 values. If he wanted to raise it to the 8th grade, it would be an even more terrifying astronomical value. As for the 9th grade, he didn't even dare to think about it. Then how high is the level now? Empyrean Sword Ruler and the others all looked over, very interested in this point. Because the speed at which Tianyan broke it was too fast, it was hard for them to judge. 7th grade. Tianyan said with a smile. 7th grade. They sucked in a breath of cold air. Although they had already guessed it, they were still shocked. Little junior brother, how do you cultivate? Can you teach me 1 or 2 moves? In fact, Empyrean Sword Ruler asked half-jokingly. Most of how he cultivated was classified. I don't know either. I usually carve the divine seals, and after cultivating for a long time, I will break through. As for the method, I really don't know. If I knew, I would definitely tell my senior brothers. Tianyan shrugged helplessly. How could Lin Ming know of any other methods? He had to rely on smashing his experience into the divine engraving master level. Alright, maybe this is talent. There's no comparison. They could only accept their fate. Some people did have amazing talent in a certain area, and they could cultivate it easily. It was really infuriating to compare with others. Sir God Tianyan, tell me the truth. Was the luck you mentioned earlier fake? You already saw through it, but you didn't say it? Empyrean Feng Qiu finally asked. That's right. Tianyan smiled embarrassedly. He felt a little embarrassed. In the end, he was still seen through. Why didn't you say it? Empyrean Feng Qiu said as she bit her lips. Actually, even if I said it, you wouldn't believe it? Besides, you can walk, and I have to watch step by step. It's definitely not as fast as you walking. Tianyan lied. He could basically see through it with a glance. Chapter 1492. Feng Qiuzun listened to Tianyan's explanation and felt a little better. Thinking about it, it really made sense. Even if the grade wasn't low, it wasn't as fast as being familiar with this place. If one was very familiar with this place, they wouldn't even need to look and would be able to walk through. If it was an ordinary god engraver, they would need to look for a period of time before they could see the problem. Alright, I was thinking too much. Feng Qiuzun was full of regret. She had thought that Tianyan was playing with her, but it seemed that she was thinking too much. Then they continued to walk forward. The environment here was very ordinary. There was nothing special. There were passages in all directions, but they didn't know where they led to. The structure map that Tianyan had obtained before was meaningless here. It didn't matter at all. That was limited to Revered Dragon Shrine. This area couldn't be considered Revered Dragon Shrine, so coming here had nothing to do with him. This shrine is where Uncle lives. The entire shrine is where he lives. Unless we come to play, the other rooms are all empty. Feng Qiuzun looked around and explained. Because this place is a little special, if we want to enter the other rooms, we have to break the restrictions before we can enter. But even if we break it, there's nothing inside, it's just an empty room. That's the biggest loss. Hearing this, everyone was speechless. This wasn't just a loss, it was a huge pit. Each room was locked tightly. They thought that there would be treasures, but after working so hard to break them, they found nothing. Thinking about it made them feel a little sad. The key was to continue breaking the other rooms. If there wasn't anything in this room, maybe there would be in other rooms. So after continuously breaking and finding no treasures, that kind of feeling was definitely driving them crazy. Now if not for Feng Qiuzun's reminder, they really would have suffered a loss. Even if Tianyan could break them, it would take some effort. So after breaking, if there were no treasures, even Tianyan wanted to beat someone up. Then where is the real control center? Tianyan asked. Go this way, go down in a more secluded area to reach it. Actually, the artifact spirit has already noticed us entering, but it won't attack us. That's because this area isn't part of the important area. Once we reach the important area, they'll definitely attack us. Venerable Feng Qiu said solemnly. When we enter the important area, we will be attacked immediately. Everyone please be prepared. They nodded their heads vigorously and became alert. The energy in their bodies circulated rapidly, and they were ready to fight at any time. Under Feng Qiuzun's lead, they went around a long walkway, and did not walk on the central path. The path in the middle seemed to be the correct path. In reality, that path was indeed the correct one. However, their true purpose was to suppress the artifact spirit and subdue it. As long as they could subdue the artifact spirit, everything here would belong to them. Why would they need to search through them one by one? After making a few turns and stepping into a large hall, a voice immediately came from the side. Intruder, leave quickly. If you continue to enter, you will die. The voice came from the side, but it also seemed to come from the other side, reverberating in the hall, filled with majesty. Without a doubt, this was the voice of the artifact spirit, and it had chosen to warn the intruders. If they still insisted on entering, they would definitely attack. Senior artifact spirit, do you still remember me? Venerable Feng Qiu walked over, trying to use this identity to make the artifact spirit trust him and let him pass. I remember, you are that little girl, Master's relative. The artifact spirit was extremely clear of Venerable Feng Qiu's identity, although it was a long time ago, but he still remembered. Then I wonder if I can control this shrine? Venerable Feng Qiu asked. No, you don't have the right. Only Master has this right. The rest of you, intruders, will die, no matter who you are. The artifact spirit's voice was even louder. It meant that even if it was Venerable Feng Qiu, he would not hesitate to kill them. Even if they were relatives, it was meaningless. They would still be killed. Venerable Feng Qiu immediately felt helpless. It seemed like this method was useless. As expected, it is useless. We can only forcefully break in. Venerable Feng Qiu transmitted her voice to explain. There are a total of 4 entrances here. There is only one that truly leads to the control area. This one is the leftmost one, the rest are not the correct route. Later, we will charge in, do not tangle with it. There is no use in tangling with the artifact spirit, I believe you all know this. Even if we break it, it will quickly reform, and we will not be able to kill it. Unless we have enough strength to seal it, and make it unable to move. But with our current situation, we naturally cannot seal it, we can only choose to charge all the way, and avoid its attacks. When we reach the control area, we will stop it, and then Divine Lord Tian Tian will forcefully control it. That is the general plan. Venerable Feng Qiu briefly explained the plan. What she said was the most useful, was naturally which path was the correct path. No problem. All of them nodded, indicating that they already knew the plan. Their gazes were fixed on the leftmost path. They would charge in with their fastest speed, and at the same time block the attacks of the artifact spirit. Charge! Venerable Feng Qiu ordered, and led the charge, her speed rising to the fastest. Yi Tianyun and the rest followed closely behind, rushing out from the path. Just as they rushed out, light arrays quickly appeared on the surrounding walls, and light swords extended out from the light arrays. In an instant, the entire shrine seemed to have turned into a hedgehog, with countless light swords covering the entire area, including the ground. Open! Venerable Feng Qiu had already prepared a wooden zither in her hands, and upon seeing the light swords that appeared, she suddenly plucked the zither, and with a wong sound, countless golden light blades swept out, forcefully opening a path in front of them. At the same time, all the light swords shot out from all directions. Each one of them was extremely sharp, as if they wanted to nail the invaders to this place. Dang dang dang. Yi Tianyun and the rest quickly brandished their weapons, blocking the light swords, and rushed forward. The extremely dense light swords immediately gave them quite a bit of pressure. The number of light swords were too dense, and the important thing was that their power was not weak. Each move was equivalent to the early stage of a middle-level Sky Sovereign, or even the middle stage standard. Chapter 1493. Countless light swords seemed like they did not need energy, constantly flinging over. It was not that these light swords did not need energy, but that this temple had gathered an unknown amount of energy here. It had long been fully absorbed, and could continue erupting for many years. Hence, wanting to wait for it to run out of energy, that was something impossible. Even if it was exhausted to death, it would probably not even exhaust half. Especially since they could not maintain this state for too long. Along the way, they joined hands, constantly blocking the light swords that attacked over. The power was not small, but their strength was also not weak. Especially after Yi Tianyun broke through, his strength was even more powerful, able to block even more attacks, much easier than before. In terms of overall strength, Yi Tianyun was basically equivalent to late-stage Middle Empyrean level. Blocking these light swords was still not much of a problem. Under their collective defense, all attacks were blocked outside, forming an absolute defense. After a bout of killing, they finally killed their way into the passageway ahead. But after killing in, the attacks did not weaken, but instead became even more frenzied. More light formations lit up all around the passageway once more. Divine lightning started to emerge from the walls, directly augmenting the light swords, transforming into numerous divine lightning light swords. The attack method did not change much, but the power increased substantially. This time, there were piles of lightning bolts inside, and they kept bombarding the area. The power rose from the original middle-level Empyrean level to the attack of early-stage upper Empyrean level. Immediately, they felt the pressure multiply. The difficulty of blocking increased by a level. Light Moon. Empyrean Feng Qiu flicked her finger, a ring flying out from her hand, transforming into an enormous bright moon, enveloping the surroundings. This ring was actually a defensive Empyrean spirit treasure, and it was even an upper Empyrean spirit treasure. The enormous bright moon turned into a shield by the side, constantly blocking the attacks. Virtually the majority of the attacks were blocked by her. Along with wave after wave of impact, her energy consumption was astonishing, her complexion becoming slightly pale. Most of the attacks were blocked by her. How could the consumption be low? Hurry, hurry, hurry. Empyrean Fengqiu gritted her teeth. She was already going all out. There was already no way out now. Even if she retreated, she would be attacked. Moreover, they did not plan on retreating from the start, but charged forward. Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others didn't hold back either. They had already taken out all sorts of upper Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasures and used them to resist the lightning swords. This passageway was not long. Normally, it would only take a short while to pass through. Now it was as if he was walking on a muddy road. His movements became extremely slow, and he felt as if this road was extremely long. Finally, after passing through this passageway, they saw the true core of this place, the control core. The control core was very simple. There was a ball of light embedded in the center of the light array. Even with the protection of the barrier, it was still not an easy task. This was especially true for the core region. There was even a very powerful lightning power revolving around it. Terrifying divine lightning circled around the shrine. The power of this divine thunder was just like the divine thunder in the black clouds outside. It had the power of a mid to late upper heavenly venerate. Those with low cultivation would be turned into charcoal the moment they stepped in. This was similar to what happened to Yi Tianyan. After being struck, he immediately turned into charcoal. This was the most crucial area. How could it be undefended? Basically, the defenses here were all top-notch. They swept a quick glance, their hearts turning cold. The difficulty here was more than just high. It was simply at a heaven-defying level. The grand array that your uncle set up is really ruthless enough. Yi Tianyan swept a glance. For the time being, disregarding the difficulty of breaking the grand array in the center, just the attacks outside were already rather dangerous. Yes, in a while we'll open up the path with all our might and erupt with our strongest power. Breaking this grand array will depend on you. Heavenly Venerate Fengqiu threw out all three of her Empyrean spirit treasures. The rest did the same, all erupting with their strongest power. From the start until now, they had been constantly in a state of being attacked. How could they possibly stop? They couldn't even catch a breath. If they were unable to break it, then they would die here. This was no joke. Either they succeeded or they died. There was no third choice. If there was a third choice, that would be to escape now. Perhaps there would still be a chance. Other than that, there was no other choice. Especially after charging in. After charging in, it was like facing the attacks of several upper-level Empyreans. It was fine to resist for a while, but it was impossible to resist for too long. No problem. Yi Tianyan agreed. Breaking this grand array was not a problem. As long as he was given enough time, he would be able to take it down. Charge. Heavenly Venerate Fengqiu started. She had always chosen to start, but her overall strength was indeed the strongest. Naturally, she was the vanguard. Just as they charged out, a phantom appeared from the ball of light. It floated in midair and looked at them coldly. I didn't think that you would dare barge into the forbidden area. Even if you are Master's relative, you will still die. This is the rule. No one can change it. The artifact spirit that appeared waved its hand. The interior of the shrine was quickly shrouded by thick black clouds. Divine lightning flickered in the sky. Following that, a bolt of divine lightning struck down fiercely towards them. This artifact spirit could use the divine lightning in the surroundings at any time. The power of each move was comparable to a middle or late level Empyrean. It was truly shocking. But the effect was definitely not as strong as Heavenly Venerate Long Yun's. But the overall power was still rather terrifying. Kaboom! A heavy bolt of divine lightning struck down, causing Heavenly Venerate Fengqiu to retreat a few steps. The bright moon around her trembled from the strike, as though it was about to fall. I'll help you. Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others quickly blocked it. Following that, they withstood the divine lightning that struck down. Step by step, it was extremely difficult. Yi Tianyan was surrounded in the center. He didn't even need to do anything. He just needed to follow along. His main goal was to break the grand array. Thus he had to conserve his strength. When the time came, he would directly erupt and break the grand array. Because of their good coordination, there was no problem in persevering to the side of the grand array. When the artifact spirit saw this, it was anxious. But it could only use this little bit of power. It could not use any stronger. Even so, it was already enough for them to suffer. Dense bolts of divine lightning struck down, charring the surface of their bodies. Chapter 1494. With the help of Yi Tianyun's voodoo wood divine set, their condition had greatly improved. Although their bodies were still constantly injured, their condition had been greatly alleviated. At least, they could hold on. As they walked forward with difficulty, they slowly began to approach the large array. Step by step, they finally arrived at the edge of the large array. At this time, the weapon spirit's attack had also increased to its most ferocious effect. The divine thunder became more and more concentrated, and the booming sound spread throughout the entire temple. The pressure on them doubled again. They did not expect the weapon spirit to be able to erupt with such terrifying power in the end. However, it was too late. They were already at the edge. Yi Tianyun quickly took a step forward, and quickly began to break the large array. Crazy divine seal mode. The breaking speed of 128 times erupted, and the small divine seals began to disintegrate rapidly. The terrifying breaking speed was displayed once again. No matter how many times they saw it, they were still deeply shocked. The breaking speed was just too fast. It was like breaking a first-grade divine seal. Otherwise, how could it be so easy? In fact, the divine seals that were broken were all 6th grade, and the difficulty was not low. Under normal circumstances, it would take a long time to get rid of it. Now it only took a short while to successfully break them. The breaking speed of 128 times was not a joke. Yi Tianyun's breaking speed was very fast, but there were too many areas to break. No matter how fast he would still need several hours to successfully break them. However, in their current condition, it was really a nightmare for them to persist for several hours. Fortunately, Yi Tianyun could use the voodoo wood divine set to heal their injuries as he broke them. Otherwise, they would not have been able to persist. This guy is too crazy. Junior brother, hurry up. They gritted their teeth and constantly resisted the divine thunder. The feeling of the power of thunder and lightning flowing through their bodies was not pleasant at all. Their bodies were charred black. After recovering a little, they would be charred black again. This repeated over and over again. It was simply uncomfortable. Yi Tianyun's speed had long been raised to the extreme. Unless his grade increased again, he would not be able to increase his speed at all. Otherwise, he would not be able to increase his speed even if he wanted to. Soon, hold on a little longer. Yi Tianyun's forehead was already dripping with sweat. He had also raised his mental power to the maximum, and the consumption was equally shocking. Everyone present had used all of their strength. Otherwise, they would not have been able to withstand it. As time passed, Celestial Lord Sword C and the others started to be unable to resist. Even with the amazing voodoo wood divine set, they couldn't hold on for too long. This was the attack of a mid to late stage upper Empyrean. They weren't unmatched, similarly having flesh bodies. If not for Yi Tianyun's treatment, he would have been lying on the ground. Right now, they were relying on pure willpower to persevere, but willpower could not make them invincible. At most, they could persevere for a while before completely collapsing. Dong dong. Celestial Venerable Sword C and Celestial Venerable Dragon Cry were struck by a bolt of divine lightning, and fell to the side, fainting between them. With 2 fewer people blocking them, the pressure on Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others increased dramatically. Looking at this situation, Yi Tianyun did not even succeed in cracking it, and they would completely collapse. The current situation already greatly exceeded the scope of their expectations. In their previous judgment, they should be able to persevere. Looking at it now, there was already no such possibility. How much more? Celestial Venerable Feng Qiu said solemnly. Give me another hour, and I can completely crack it. But how much time will be needed inside, I can't say. But overall, persevere for 2 hours, we should be able to take it down. Yi Tianyun did not dare to say that he could definitely take it down. The grand array outside could definitely be taken down, but how to force it to recognize a master inside, this was more difficult. The time needed was hard to say. Some needed several days, even a few months. Tianyan saying that he needed an hour to take down this core. No one would believe it even if he said it out. No matter what, this treasure belonged to an Upper Empyrean spirit treasure. A divine lord saying that he could take down an Upper Empyrean spirit treasure. They really did not believe it. But they believed in Tianyan's words, that he could definitely take down this core within an hour. Moreover, looking at the current situation, they could only choose to believe. Otherwise, there would be no chance. All right. Venerable Feng Qiu quickly closed her eyes, and then suddenly opened them. 2 rays of light shot out from her beautiful eyes, and her pupils quickly turned white. In that instant, her power was released to the maximum, and the light core in her body completely erupted. A full 7th grade core. How could its power be weak? After erupting, her combat power rose sharply, continuously multiplying by several times. The Empyrean spirit treasures in her hands seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. Their defensive power once again increased by several times, all of them buzzing. In such a state, the divine lightning could not strike down at all. It formed an absolute defense, protecting them firmly. Empyrean Wuxia and the others were stunned. They did not think that Venerable Feng Qiu could still erupt with such terrifying power. If it was an explosive attack, even an Upper Empyrean late-stage powerhouse would be easily killed. Tianyan finally saw Venerable Feng Qiu's explosive power. Previously, when he wanted to deal with Empyrean Wuxia and the others, he wanted to erupt with such power. If he had not stopped her, Venerable Feng Qiu would have erupted. This level of power was truly an absolute trump card. Vaguely, Tianyan could feel a special power from it, an indescribable power. I can only hold on for 2 hours. I won't be able to hold on any longer, and will lose consciousness. If I need more time, I'll have to rely on you guys. Venerable Feng Qiu was like a goddess descending to the mortal world. Halos flickered on her body, forming rings of halos that shrouded her, looking extremely beautiful. She could only hold on for 2 hours in this state. At that time, Tianyan would not be able to seize control, and it would be up to Empyrean Wuxia and the others to resist. Empyrean Swordsmanship and the others could all take a breather at this time, and could quickly recover under the Voodoo Wood Divine set. But they still needed to recover for a period of time, before they could regain their combat power. Empyrean Wuxia and the others nodded, indicating that they understood. At that time, they would also risk everything to resist this divine lightning. Venerable Feng Qiu had a trump card. Empyrean Wuxia and the others also had a trump card, but it was still much weaker than Venerable Feng Qiu. This was a true explosive power. The originally terrifying divine lightning was unable to seep in at all. It was enough to see how terrifying it was. Enough. Chapter 1495. After Venerable Feng Qiu exploded, everything became relaxed. She felt that there was no pressure at all of it had disappeared. Tianyan focused on breaking it. His speed was still the same as before. It should be said that he could not be fast in the first place. He could not be fast even if he wanted to. This was his limit. How could he still be fast? As time passed, almost an hour later, under his final point, the great formation was finally broken by him. Bang! The sturdy shield outside was pierced through just like that, revealing the crucial core inside. When everyone saw this, they were instantly overjoyed. They had finally broken through the final barrier. As long as they could forcefully control this core, everything would come to an end. The Dragon Sovereign Shrine would belong to Tianyan. No one would be able to invade this place. Whoever he wanted to scram could scram. Continue. Tianyan was not the least bit happy. As long as it was not completely over, he would not be in the mood to be happy. He slapped the core with one hand. It was actually a ball of light, an upper-level Empyrean spirit treasure. It was just that it was fixed here, and through the great formation here, it spread to the entire shrine. If not for this great formation, this upper-level Empyrean spirit treasure would naturally not be able to display its strongest effect. When he slapped the core, an impact surged out from within the core, sending him flying. Fortunately, Venerable Feng Qiu's eyes and hands were quick. She immediately dragged him back, and he was not sent flying. What a strong power. As expected, the core was still held back. Yi Tianyan felt that on the surface, there was still Empyrean Dragon Sovereign's power. After breaking through the barrier, there was still Empyrean Dragon Sovereign's power. It was not so easy to break through. The recoil just now had directly broken his hand, but after a little recovery, it was easily healed. The healing effect of the voodoo wood divine set on his body would be even more astonishing. Do you feel that it will succeed? Venerable Feng Qiu asked. There is difficulty, but as long as this energy is dispersed, there will be no problem. Yi Tianyan's eyes narrowed. He planned to absorb all the energy. As long as he absorbed this energy, the rest of the work would be much easier. Venerable Feng Qiu nodded. She also felt that this method was feasible. But could Yi Tianyan withstand this power? Pa! Yi Tianyan grabbed the core and quickly absorbed it. Just like before, when he grabbed it, he felt a rebounding force shoot out from the core. However, this time he was prepared. His hand gripped the core tightly and began to frantically absorb it, forcibly extracting the energy within it into his body. Ding! Received 100 points of compressed experience, 150 points of compressed experience, 200 points of compressed experience. After absorbing it, it quickly transformed into experience and flowed into his body. This value was quite good. To him, there was no such thing as absorbing too much. It was impossible for his body to explode. He would only worry about not absorbing enough. However, according to the current situation, it would take a little longer to absorb. This energy was not something that could be drained so easily. I'll help too. Heavenly Lord Sword C and the rest had more or less recovered by now, so they came over to help. In any case, Empyrean Feng Qiu alone was enough to withstand all the attacks, so Empyrean Yu Qian and the others could absorb it together. Following that, they all came over and grabbed the ball of light, forcefully extracting the energy. However, it was very different from Yi Tianyan. Yi Tianyan's absorption was equivalent to his own cultivation, but they were unable to absorb it as experience. They could only release it out of their bodies after absorbing it. Yi Tianyan did not mind this. What he was pursuing now was speed, and not to earn experience here. If he wanted to earn experience, he might as well go out and kill Empyreans. The experience gained there was much more than here, especially after stacking the experience card. This little bit of experience was not enough. After everyone joined in, the absorption speed increased significantly. The artifact spirit at the side was extremely anxious. However, its attacks had long lost their effect, and had no effect on Empyrean Feng Qiu's defense. Unless the power continued to increase by a large amount, it would be meaningless. As they frantically absorbed, the ball of light quickly dimmed. Seeing this situation, everyone knew that if they continued to absorb, the small protective barrier outside would be completely absorbed. Just a little more. Everyone was overjoyed, and felt that they were about to break through. Stacking layers upon layers of things was really troublesome. But they could only break through like this, there was no other way. Following that, everyone gathered their strength and fiercely absorbed the energy. After absorbing it, with a pung, the outermost protective barrier shattered, and completely exposed the ball of light. Now the last step was to subdue the artifact spirit. But before they could rejoice for too long, a gigantic pit suddenly appeared beneath their feet, and sucked them in. The terrifying suction force, before they could react, they had already been sucked in. The main thing was that it was too sudden. None of them had thought that there would be a huge pit beneath their feet, and they would all be sucked in. The moment they fell in, the ground quickly closed up, once again being imprinted with layers of divine seals. It was extremely secure, and there was no way to break it. The room that was filled with attacks regained its peace. Luckily, Master had a trick up his sleeve. The artifact spirit looked at the ground and said solemnly. At the same time, Yi Tianyan and the rest felt themselves being crazily sucked in. The strong suction force made them unable to pull themselves back. When they flew again, they were unable to stop the suction force. It's the spatial suction force. There's actually a broken space below. If we are sucked in, if we are unlucky, we will be transported to a dangerous region. If we are lucky, we will be transported to a better unknown region. Very quickly, They immediately sensed what the thing with the terrifying suction force below was. Your uncle is too ruthless. I didn't think there would be such a setup. Tianyan wanted to curse. It really was layers upon layers, and now he had even dug a huge pit for them, and was preparing to send them away. As to where they would be sent to, he wasn't sure. Perhaps it would take several years for them to return, or even decades, or even centuries. If they were sent to an even more dangerous region, then forget about returning, they would die there. I don't know. Feng Qiuzun was stunned. She hadn't thought there would be such a setup. She had never seen it before. Chapter 1496. With their current abilities, they should be able to escape from the turbulent space flow. But there was only this passageway around, and no other passageway. This meant that they could either break through the wall or be sucked in. There was no other choice. But how could this passageway be easily destroyed? And there were layers of defensive formations all around. How could it be easily destroyed? Even if it was destroyed, it would take a long time. They could not hold on for too long in such a state. They would definitely be sucked in. It's over. Venerable Feng Qiu's eyes were filled with despair. In the end, everything was for naught. It's not over. Tianyan's eyes were filled with determination as he stared at the wall in front of him, his powerful spiritual sense piercing forward, striking the seal and slowly seeping in. As long as his spiritual sense could penetrate this seal, he would be able to teleport everyone over with his teleportation. But the seal on the wall was really thick, he really could not penetrate it in a short time. Then he gritted his teeth. Grab me, and hold on at the same time. Just a while is enough. Without any hesitation, Yu Qian and the rest grabbed onto Tianyan, each of them grabbing onto his hands and feet, flying forward at the same time, sticking close to the wall. Venerable Feng Qiu was startled, not knowing what this meant, but she still chose to grab onto Tianyan. After all, Yu Qian and the rest had already done this. She naturally would not refuse. It was just that she was curious why they did this. Even if they could break through this seal, it was extremely difficult. They were constantly being pulled back, and it was already very good to be able to prevent themselves from being sucked in. As for breaking through, it was too difficult. If they were not sucked in, they might have a chance to break through. Now that they were being sucked in, they could not even stand properly. How could they break through this wall? While she was feeling puzzled, Tianyan locked onto the seal in front of him, and under his swift piercing, he finally squeezed into the outside environment. This was really not easy, but compared to the outermost door, it was much better. The outermost door was the one that spiritual sense could not penetrate. Otherwise he could directly enter and teleport in. There would be no need to destroy it one by one. The two were not on the same level. This place was a little more fragile, but not very fragile. At least it was enough for spiritual sense to pass through. Pass to me. Tianyan's eyes narrowed, and in an instant, everyone disappeared from this space. In the next moment, they all appeared in the center of the divine hall from before, with the ball of light beside them. When Feng Qiuzun saw it, she was stunned. He was clearly trapped in that passageway just now. How did he come back now? I was almost sucked in. See how I'll deal with you this time. Tianyan extended his hand and patted the sphere of light. Next, the lightning core within his body began to revolve, and a violent power rapidly flowed into the sphere. Without Heavenly Venerate Dragon Fate's protective barrier, it would be much easier this time. After he entered, he immediately felt a repulsive force gushing over. Actually, it was just the violent divine thunder that wanted to chase the intruder out. At this time, it was time to use the lightning core. With the lightning core, it would undoubtedly be able to withstand this power. If he didn't, the difficulty of blocking it would be greatly increased. Now that the power of the divine thunder surged out, it was rapidly absorbed by him. At the same time, a portion of the energy overflowed, causing his body to be charred by the electricity. Of course, overall it was still beneficial. His experience points began to rise rapidly. Every time he could obtain thousands of compressed experience points. It was really quite refreshing. Combined with experience cards and the like, the effect was undoubtedly even more astonishing. And using the Voodoo Wood Divine set, Everything was still considered balanced. The key point was that the artifact spirit was dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded. It had not even reacted to what was going on. Originally, it had already left this place to check the situation in other areas. Who knew that everything would be so sudden? Suddenly, the ball of light was controlled, and a steady stream of energy gushed in. Based on this situation, it would still take a period of time to completely control it. It was so frightened that it immediately returned. When it saw that Tianyun and the others were still standing there unharmed, it momentarily forgot to activate the surrounding great array. You intruders, how could you possibly return? After the artifact spirit reacted, it quickly controlled the surrounding great array, once again attracting the divine thunder to attack. If Tianyun and the others destroyed the wall and returned, it would definitely be able to react. Who knew that without any reaction, its body would be invaded by the energy? You don't need to care about this, just obediently be controlled. Empyrean Yuqian and the others laughed loudly, starting to resist with all their might. This little junior brother of theirs was really powerful. He had no abilities, he was simply omnipotent. At such a crucial moment, they were still able to turn the tables. It should be said that until the end, they did not even know if they would lose. Venerable Fengqiu was puzzled as she resisted. Until now, she still did not understand what was going on. How did Tianyun do this? Could it be teleportation? Such a terrifying teleportation. Could it ignore the divine seal and the like, and teleport in? Tianyun is too lazy to care about what they think, he is concentrating on controlling it. Seeing that it was being suppressed bit by bit, according to this situation, it indeed did not need an hour to be able to control it. Under Venerable Fengqiu's resistance, she finally fainted, her energy exhausted. This was the result. Immediately, Empyrean Yuqian and the others stepped forward, each of them erupting with their strongest power. If they could hold on until the last moment, it would be their victory. Just a little more. Tianyun's eyes flashed with a cold light. Just a little more and he would have succeeded. No, the artifact spirit roared, but the roar did not increase the power. It was still the same as before. Wang. Following that, the ball of light began to flicker, and the surrounding divine lightning instantly disappeared. Everything returned to normal, without any change. If not for the surrounding charred black, it really would have been as if nothing had happened. Following that, the artifact spirit flew down, landing beside Tianyun, kneeling down and saying respectfully, "Master." Tianyun nodded and said, "Good, guard this temple for me, at the same time, trap that Empyrean Huaxing, we will treat him well later." "Yes, Master." The artifact spirit quickly disappeared, going to deal with Empyrean Huaxing, Empyrean Yuqian, and the others all slumped to the ground, their bodies already charred black, looking terrible. It's finally over. This ancient Empyrean temple has finally been conquered by us. Yes, this is the first time we have conquered an ancient Empyrean temple. We are finally not picking up other people's leftovers. Chapter 1497. After Tianyun had successfully subdued the artifact spirit, the entire Dragon Sovereign Shrine had become his property. Not just the shrine here, but the other shrines outside had also become his property. Although the artifact spirit would only attack those who invaded here, it did not mean that it could not control the areas outside. It could still control the areas outside. It was just that before Heavenly Lord Dragon Fate had left, he had ordered the artifact spirit to mainly protect this area. To him, what he truly cared about was this place. As for the areas outside, he could ignore them. This way, whoever Tianyun wanted to chase out could be chased out. With a master, it was very easy to control, and its power would increase by a lot. Especially when he handed control over to Fengqiu, the power would definitely increase greatly. Fengqiu was an Empyrean, he was not even an Empyrean. Without the power of a powerful Empyrean, he was unable to display the strongest effect. Thus breaking through to the Empyrean level was something he could not delay. He had to quickly break through to the Empyrean level. Now was the best time. After taking control of the Dragon Sovereign Shrine, he could easily eradicate some of the intruders. especially the powerhouses of the myriad heaven god realm and the Saint Peak god realm. It was very reasonable to eradicate them. Looks like she won't wake up for a while. Yi Tianyan saw that Feng Qiuzun was still unconscious. This was not a coma caused by serious injuries, but a situation caused by excessive exhaustion. In such a situation, a short period of sleep would be fine. But in this period of time, her ability to protect herself would be at its lowest. If she fainted, she would definitely be captured. Thus, Feng Qiuzun would not use this ability unless she had no other choice. In a situation where she had no companions, using it was to choose to escape. This was the most reasonable use. After resting for a while, they all recovered slightly. They had expended too much energy. After meditating for a while, they had basically recovered. With the help of pills and the like, their recovery would definitely not be too slow. It's about time. I've already let the artifact spirit open the other doors. You can all go and plunder the treasures. These treasures are all ours. Yi Tianyan smiled at his senior apprentice brothers, letting them personally plunder. According to the previous agreement, Feng Qiuzun only wanted the shrine and the golden tree. As for the other treasures, they could take as they pleased. I've been waiting for this moment. Little junior brother, aren't you going with us? The moment Heavenly Venerable Sword C heard that there were treasures to plunder, he immediately became spirited. Didn't they risk their lives for this treasure? Not for now, I have something to do first. Yi Tianyan's eyes flashed with a cold light. After that, he disappeared from where he was and headed to another region. Sword C Heavenly Venerable and the rest knew what Yi Tianyan wanted to do, so they didn't care about it. All of them quickly went to search for treasures. At the same time, in a sealed temple, Heavenly Venerate Wise Star constantly slammed the walls, bombarding them with powerful attacks wave after wave. However, he couldn't break through the walls in the slightest. The divine seal on it was even more profound, and he couldn't break it with his ability. Damn it, what's going on? As soon as he entered, he was immediately sealed off. I didn't expect there to be a weapon spirit here. Empyrean Walker Star was incomparably vexed. He had spent a great deal of effort to break open the door and enter, but who knew that not long after, an artifact spirit would suddenly rush out and send him into the sealed temple. He had been trapped here for a period of time, and there was no way to break out at all. Rumble. At this time, the passageway behind him suddenly opened. After a figure entered, it closed again. Empyrean Walker Star, who was originally a little pleasantly surprised in his heart, immediately sank to the bottom after seeing the door close again. It's you, punk. When Empyrean Walker Star saw that the figure that appeared was actually Yi Tianyan, he was immediately enraged in his heart. That's right, it's me. Yi Tianyan walked over step by step, looking at him with narrowed eyes. Ha ha ha, looks like you got lost with your companions, and were also trapped here in the end, right? Empyrean Walker Star thought that Yi Tianyan was trapped inside and immediately sneered and said, "Let's see how you escape this time. There's only the two of us left here." Escape? Why should I escape? Yi Tianyan said indifferently. Oh, looks like you're very confident in your strength. If not for Empyrean Feng Qiu and the rest supporting me, do you think I'd be afraid of you? Empyrean Walker Star flew into a rage and immediately erupted with his upper Empyrean strength, ruthlessly pressuring over here. Facing this pressure, Yi Tianyan didn't feel any pressure at all. His expression was still indifferent. I'm still very confident in my own strength. However, I don't need to do anything to deal with you. Yi Tianyan gently raised his hand and the artifact spirit appeared beside him. Master, what instructions do you have? The artifact spirit directly knelt beside Yi Tianyan, respectfully bowing. After Empyrean Walker Star saw this, he was scared out of his wits. He didn't expect that Yi Tianyan had already become the master of this place. You. How did you become the master of this place? Empyrean Walker Star was frightened. He knew how strong the artifact spirit here was. It should be said that this was someone else's territory. If he really did something, he would definitely die without a doubt. What's the point of knowing this? Yi Tianyan walked over step by step and said indifferently, "It's about time to end this. You can make your move now." Attack however you like. Of course, it's not me fighting one-on-one with you. Let this artifact spirit exchange a few moves with you to play. Empyrean Walker Star's expression was ugly. How to play anymore? The artifact spirit was equivalent to the master of this place. He couldn't win even if he wanted to. This little brother, don't be impulsive. I was only targeting Empyrean Fengqiu previously. I don't have much opinion about you. Furthermore, I didn't provoke you in any way. Everything was a misunderstanding. Empyrean Walker Star hurriedly explained. He didn't want to die here. He still wanted to become a celestial deity. To become the ruler of a generation. Misunderstanding? Yi Tianyan said indifferently. I don't think there's any misunderstanding between us. Do you know about the new divine realm that came up? The new divine realm? You're talking about the divine realm that recently came up from the outer divine realm? Empyrean Walker Star said doubtfully. What happened to that divine realm? I'm that new divine realm's region lord. You guys are making things difficult for my divine realm at every turn. Is this still a misunderstanding? Yi Tianyan smiled slightly and raised his hand. Kill. Empyrean Walker Star was dumbfounded. Only now did he know what Yi Tianyan's true identity was. Turns out that right from the beginning, the grudge was already sowed. Boom boom boom. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.